Nationals, 16-time Funny Car champion John Force sustained an engine explosion and serious crash during his first round race. We'll have an update on his condition and final eliminations coming up next here on FS1.
Well, Guy, looks like we got us a little seating situation. Be your strongest self.
Buddy break.
That's a no-go on the halftime.
Play on.
However you fan, get more with Geico.
Ref, how about a timeout for Nacho Tots?
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is...
Well, Steve, what do you say we make this eyesore sore no more? Be your strongest self.
JB Weld, world's strongest bond.
It's baseball night in America. Saturday is...
Rhythm is finally getting a full 12 hours of sleep thanks to Coterie diapers.
We switched to Coterie, and he started sleeping 11 hours through the night.
When we made the switch, our baby started sleeping better through the night, and we had way less diaper changes.
So if you're dreaming of more sleep and you want to upgrade your diaper, try Coterie.
The Flex Short by Public Rec. A highly versatile athletic short designed to fit everywhere. Sweat, swim, and sun, all in one. The Flex Short by Public Rec.
They've been drag racing in the state of Virginia since the 1950s, but they have rarely done it in conditions like these with the superstars of the sport, like Brittany Force and Top Fuel Eliminator, who won the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge this weekend. Her John Force Racing teammate Austin Prock comes in after a major win just 2 weeks ago in Bristol, Tennessee, trying to keep a hot streak going in his early pro stock career. Greg Anderson, the legendary pro stock racer, is having a season to remember. He also won the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge yesterday, and Gage Herrera is attempting to make history today to supplant Bob Glidden with the most consecutive victories in the history of NHRA drag racing. The beauty of the Richmond, Virginia area has been offset by something called a heat dome this weekend, and that heat dome has raised the temperatures at Virginia Motorsports Park, about a 35-mile drive away from the state capital of Richmond here in beautiful Dinwiddie. This is the NHRA Play NHRA Virginia Nationals at Virginia Motorsports Park, and it is yet another part of the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series Tour for the 2024 season. Welcome everybody inside the broadcast booth here at Virginia Motorsports Park. Brian Loans joined by two-time NHRA Funny Car World Champion Tony Pedregon. Tony, a couple of things here. The drag strip this weekend has been more akin to the grill at your local hibachi restaurant than an actual racing surface, and we come on this racing surface after 2 weeks ago at Bristol. They call it Thunder Valley. It was basically Alibi Alley. Everybody had an excuse as to why they didn't get down that racetrack. There are no excuses here today.
Well, there are no excuses unless you can find a goat to pin it on, but this is one of the smoothest tracks on the circuit. The true tuners know that. They are having to deal with the heat. They may say it's like racing on the surface of Venus, but they've had 3 runs in similar conditions. In fact, it may be a few degrees cooler. It's still going to be a challenge. It's going to be a little more humid. So not only do they have to slide the clutch and adjust the clutch, they have to dial the fuel system in sync with with that. But on a hot day, those drivers with experience have to use some of that experience in terms of throttle control, as some of the teams will push, considering some of the first-round matchups. Some of the teams may push so hard, two cars lose traction. It all falls on the driver's shoulders.
Losing traction in the final round of Bristol, Tennessee was not the worst thing that ever happened to Tony Schumacher just 2 weeks ago, because he picked up his 87th career victory in a back-to-back final round against Doug Kallita. The two had saw themselves lined up next to each other in Epping, New Hampshire, where Schumacher lost, but in Bristol, he won the event and added to what is obviously a Hall of Fame career as the winningest Top Fuel driver in history. Now let's take a look at this week's Fendt record-setting performances, and any way you slice it, Tony Schumacher leads every significant category in Top Fuel history. Championships, race wins, final rounds, #1 qualifiers, and round wins. He is the league leader in all of them, and he leads off this show with Bruno Massel in the pits.
Tony Schumacher's Bristol win reminded everybody that he is the winningest Top Fuel driver in the history of the sport, but struggled this weekend, Tony. You guys haven't really got a hold of this racetrack. How do you navigate it today?
We didn't get a hold of Bristol or Epping either, you know, and ended up in the finals. You got to race. It's race day. It's hot. You know, yesterday, really during the day, Antron was the one you watched. You know, he went 390. Everyone else was in the 4s, and he's a danger zone when it's hot out. So we're going to go up there first round, get it down the track. But no matter what, there's going to be a winner and a loser. You know that. So yesterday, the car was shutting itself off. It had all these pan pressure sensors and all this stuff. Today, it's race day. You take that stuff off, you give it gas, and you just send it.
The Play NHRA era has begun. You can go to nhra.com/Play NHRA or scan the flow code here. Get involved on the fantasy front. You can get involved on the gaming front, even the betting front. And of course, when we talk about the betting front, these are the odds entering today's event as far as winners for the Top Fuel Funny Car, Pro Stock Motorcycle, and Pro Stock categories.
Anytime you see a plus in front of the drivers that have won multiple championships, like John Force, Doug Kallita, a champion, Dallas Glenn, I would take those odds. I would take them in a heartbeat. Even Gage, you package these and bundle them in a parlay. You cannot miss that opportunity.
And now let's talk about the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge in Top Fuel Eliminator, and it came down to Brittany Force and Tony Schumacher. Tony Schumacher's been winning these rounds over the course of the last few weeks, but not this one. Brittany Force claimed victory.
The track temperature was plus 140. Sometimes you don't necessarily have to outrun your competition. You simply have to outlast them like Brittany Force did.
Amanda Busick with Brittany.
After not qualifying in Chicago, Brittany Force and her team has bounced back with a semifinals appearance in Bristol and now winning her first ever Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty right here in Virginia. What would success be for this team today, Brittany?
We really need it. This entire team needs it after, you know, such a long time away from the winner's circle. We got a little bit of it last night when we won that Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty, but this HendrickCars.com team, we want to get back in that winner's circle. That's where we need to be, and we're looking forward to today. We're in a good position, we feel. It's going to be tough out there. It's hot. We have Selena's first round, but I'm excited to get going.
And now we talk about Top Fuel qualifying session 3 and how it all shook out. Sean Langdon and Billy Torrance lined up, and Langdon with Brian Houston tuning this Kallita Air car jumped to the #1 spot.
Yeah, for Sean Langdon, this is no big surprise. This team just missed the first 2 opportunities, but they had a sun that started to come off the track, still plenty of track temperature, and they seem to have the best strategy going into this last session.
Let's talk about the first round matchups in Top Fuel Eliminator, and there are some doozies in this first round that we have set up for us. Antron Brown and Billy Torrance. Torrance's car faded as the day went on yesterday. Sean Langdon, of course, got better. Lex June made one qualifying attempt and smoked the tires immediately. Doug Kallita, the defending world champion, will take on Cameron Ferret, the decided underdog in this matchup. Tony Stewart and Clay Millican. Stewart is having one of the best qualifying weekends of his season, and Millican's team has been struggling to get down this drag strip in clean fashion. Sean Reed and Tony Schumacher side by side. It is Reed that comes in with his Rob Wendland-tuned dragster carrying the performance advantage. Jasmine Salinas and Brittany Force. Jasmine represents only the 3rd woman that Brittany Force has ever lined up against over the course of her multi-time championship Top Fuel career. And of course, we move on to Steve Torrance and Justin Ashley. This may be a bigger test of Steve Torrance's mental tenacity than it will be Justin Ashley's actual driving acumen. And finally, the first pair on the racetrack this morning will be Josh Hart taking on Dan Mercier of Quebec, Canada. And the 2 Top Fuel dragsters are lit on this ever-warming Sunday. The R&L Carriers dragster on the left-hand side of your screen of Josh Hart and Canada's Dan Mercier on the right-hand side. We've talked about Dan in glowing terms this season, but he has done a fine job tuning this car on his own and going rounds. Tony, the onus here, the pressure here really has to be on Josh Hart because of the fact this is a full-time car, because of the fact they have an experienced crew, an experienced driver, and they just have not been able to produce the results they want.
They have not. However, they are the better car in qualifying. Now, ironically, both of these cars made their best qualifying effort in the last qualifying session. Similar conditions that we have right now. The concern for the drivers is always traction. They hope that the tuners set the car up properly. For Dan Mercier, he is in the driver's seat. He makes the final decisions on this car. What Dan Mercier will have to defend against is that reaction time advantage that Josh Hart is going to be looking for.
So the R&L Carriers team, led by crew chief Ron Douglas, make their final moves and checks on the race car. John Stewart, the legendary Nitro racer, has been consulting with, working with Douglas to try to bring some semblance of consistency and performance to the R&L team. For Dan Mercier, a baseline tune-up developed by Rob Wendland has been his guide map, and it's a guide map that he has read very well so far in 2024. Round 1 starts now. The two cars are going to make the trip to the finish line. Striping it will be Josh Hart. Hart on a hole shot. A 46 light to the 97 of Dan Mercier is all you got to know here. A 398.2 beats a 398.1.
Well, there you have it. It goes down on the starting line. Josh Hart, one of the quicker drivers off of the line. He utilizes his tactics, his experience, but you could tell by the header flames, that exhaust, that he is open on the throttle before Dan Mercier. And Dan Mercier only has 7 cylinders, so he was at a disadvantage on 2 fronts because of his reaction time. But for Josh Hart, 8 cylinders, another good run.
The Camping World hole shot camera showing us about half a top fuel dragster length as Josh Hart streaked across the finish line at speed. Hart climbing out of his dragster. He will take it a thumbs up. These are the small victories that he hopes will begin to add up to larger ones. Antron Brown on the starting line next to Billy Torrance. And it's much the same story as we talked about in this first pairing. For Brown, he needs to be better on the starting line. And Bruno, what do you have on a racetrack?
Now, Brian, right now, ambient air temperature is up a little bit, but track temperature down for what we're seeing. We got a little bit of clouds coming in. We now expect a little cloud cover. Right now, a lot more water in the air, humidity-wise. Teams are telling me expect numbers they saw in that last qualifying session where the track was at its best. They're looking to match that here in round 1.
Brown has a 10-4 career record against Billy. The Matco Tools car flinched first. Billy hazes the tires, and Antron Brown a convincing 391.3 at 318 miles an hour. That sounds a little more like it.
A lot of credit for Billy Torrance, an 0.41. Wow. That got him about 0.02 of a second jump off of Antron Brown. This is a driver that had the right approach to racing Antron Brown. It didn't stick for too long. You can see there's the first orange block, 330. It was just before that 660-foot orange block that you could see Billy Torrance start to lose traction. Those rear tires just start to spin. Once they start and slip on a hot day like this, they're not likely going to stop. And you can see for Antron Brown, a nearly carbon copy of his qualifying effort.
Smoke was the story of the day for Billy Torrance. Smoke may be the story of the day for Clay Millican. He has to race Tony Stewart when we come back.
Get ready to race down the track with Mission Foods. It's a green light for the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, packed with fast action and tasty products. Fully loaded tacos, fast wraps, piled high nachos. Whatever you crave, Mission will help you be race ready with easy-to-make recipes that will take your race day to the finish line. Keep your racing delicious and enjoy all the mouth-watering action. Brought to you by Mission Foods. Too fast, too tasty.
One of the main reasons for poor vehicle performance is a dirty fuel system. It can cause decreased fuel economy and actually do harm to your engine over time. By adding Lucas fuel treatment to your vehicle, it cleans and lubricates the entire fuel system. Pump, carburetors, fuel injectors, and valves as you drive. It also improves your vehicle's performance. It's a non-solvent product designed to protect both gasoline and diesel engines. Lucas Fuel Treatment. It works.
Get ready to play NHRA. Play NHRA is a campaign bringing fantasy, gaming, and betting to NHRA drag racing. Scan the flow code to see options available in your state. Sign up for an account and earn bonus bets to use towards NHRA fantasy gaming and betting. Get started at the official portal for NHRA betting. Play NHRA. 21 plus. Please refer to affiliated operators' terms and conditions. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
I have moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Thanks to Sky Rizzy, I'm on my way with clearer skin. 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, had a vaccine, or plan to.
Nothing on my skin means everything. Ask your dermatologist about Skyrizi. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
The cockroach. Resilient creatures. True miracles of evolution. Where there is one, others aren't far behind. Always scavenging for food, the cockroach will...
Well, that's horrifying.
Near its favorite...
Ortho Home Defense Max Indoor Insect Barrier. One application kills and prevents bugs for 365 days.
Not in my house, you don't.
Nature's wild. Your home doesn't have to be.
The Play NHRA Virginia Nationals is sponsored by Mission Foods. Now that's too fast, too tasty. And by Play NHRA. Play NHRA brings fantasy, gaming, and betting to NHRA drag racing. A quick peek inside the Keystone Truck and Tractor Museum. If you are a dork like I am for tractors and old big rigs, Tony, you and I spent a day there a couple years ago. It is beyond description. We look now at the Top Fuel ladder.
That would be 2 dorks, and you can see that Josh Hart has already advanced along with Antron Brown, but we still continue to have some big matchups for this first round.
It is Lex June on the starting line next to Sean Langdon. June made 1 attempt during qualifying as we look down from the Pep Boys drone. The car left the starting line, immediately spun the tires and knocked the burst panels out of the intake manifold. Meanwhile, Sean Langdon, his car, like fine wine, got better with age, qualifying number 1 in the 3rd session.
Yeah, Sean Langdon, he's just having really a career year for this team. He's having to compete against his teammate, but they saved the best for last. They were able to get their best runoff in the last qualifying session. Like Bruno said earlier, similar track temperature, similar conditions, a little more humidity, but that's going to cause the tuners to lean the fuel system out so it doesn't misfire cylinders.
Sean Langdon has misfiring cylinders, but he is able to hang in there long enough. 391.1, 313 miles an hour, had the starting line advantage. June runs 415 at 275 as we get one more look at it.
But smart racing for Sean Langdon is almost what we could have expected, but didn't expect that from Lex June. This is a team that did the work, that put the time in, that made some good decisions, and they make a full run. The car didn't lose traction. With all the changes they've done with this car, you have to give them a lot of credit for a very respectable effort.
Let's go to Amanda Busick at the top end.
Josh, I've heard your crew chief on the starting line saying we got to keep this fight going. In your effort to get back to the winner's circle, we know you can do it. How hard has this fight been for you?
Well, it's been terrible. I mean, 2.5, almost 3 years, no wins, you know, so I said in the beginning when we were having success, we were in it for the long haul, and I think this should prove it. So for the R&L Carriers team, you know we belong in the top half, and we're doing everything we can to claw our way back. So we'll get it with the help of John Stewart coming on board. I think we'll be just fine. Thank you.
So now we go back to the starting line. You notice only a single car. Yes, there were 16 cars on the property, but Cameron Foray unable to make this first round. Jerry Freeman's Top Fuel dragster, they broke the intake manifold. The car does have some parts that are a little bit older generation than many of the other teams. There was not another intake to be found for those generation cylinder heads in the pits. So Doug Kallita has a solo competition single in the first round. Don't hang your head too far down, Jerry, because a 394 at 318 miles an hour is about as nice, clean, and good as you're going to see in round 1. Antron Brown is with Amanda Busick.
Antron, the last time you got past round 1, you ended up winning the race in Chicago. What did your dragster show you this morning that makes you think you can go the distance today?
It's consistency. You know, we made some good runs yesterday in the heat, and Brian Karate, Mark Oswald, these boys got this Mako Lucas Oil car on mean, and the last qualifying run, we were a little bummed because it dropped the hole at the 330, and we're about to drop low ET again. So hopefully we can just keep on showing more of that. We're cleaning some different areas up, and we're getting to where we need to be. And that's what you have to be in this tough field. This field's really, really tough, and we just want to keep getting better like we are.
The next pair is one of the biggest of the first round. The Summit Racing Equipment onboard of Clay Millican and the Parts Plus Top Fuel dragster making its way back to the starting line. His opponent will be Tony Stewart in the Dodge Power Brokers Direct Connection dragster. This is one of those moments, Tony, that neither of these cars can afford a loss here in the first round.
Well, for Tony Stewart, you got what you wanted. You showed your emotion at the last race a couple of weeks ago. Some of that is frustration. They have arrived. As good as we've seen Clay Millican, they have not been the same team here. They haven't exceeded 200 miles an hour. They haven't gotten this car to the finish line. That works in Tony Stewart's favor. Meanwhile, they have been flawless. They missed it the first session. They ran the table in the first qualifying or second session, quickest car, and of course they were able to back that up in the most recent session. Now we have some cloud cover coming in.
Millican's car puts a cylinder out, and Tony Stewart sees a wind light like a guy trapped in a desert getting a bottle of water. He goes down through there, 387.4, 87.4, 319. That is low ET of the entire first round.
Well, if you take another look at this, take a listen. Listen to Clay Millican revving the car up on the starting line. That is what gives him that big advantage. An 0.26 for Clay Millican. I'm sure he rolled the car in, but that seemed to be a little bit of a distraction for Tony Stewart. He is probably tuned into the audio, and he is typically better off the starting line than what he just was.
Clay Millican, you can see the misfiring cylinders, and there goes Tony Stewart picking up a round win here to kick off the day in Virginia. When we come back, we have plenty more first round action in Top Fuel. Tony Schumacher, the Bristol winner, will square off against his first round matchup in the form of the always tough Sean Reed.
The Summer of Stars continues with 3 huge matchups.
Are you serious?
It all kicks off Tuesday on Fox and FS1.
Every Saturday, your game is on Fox.
Because if baseball is as American as apple pie, then Fox Saturday Baseball is one heck of a slice. Sit back and make some room for a big old helping. Boom. Goodbye! Come on, it's Saturday.
Type 2 diabetes? Discover the Ozempic Trizone. Ozempic! I got the power of 3. I lowered my A1C, CV risk, and lost some weight.
In studies, the majority of people reached an A1C under 7 and maintained it.
I'm under 7.
Ozempic lowers the risk of major cardiovascular events such as stroke, heart attack, or death in adults also with known heart disease.
I'm lowering my risk.
Adults lost up to 14 pounds.
I lost some weight.
Ozempic isn't for people with type 1 diabetes. Don't share needles or pens or reuse needles. Don't take Ozempic if you or your family ever had medullary thyroid cancer or have multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2 or if allergic to it. Stop Ozempic and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may include pancreatitis. Gallbladder problems may occur. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes. Taking Ozempic with a sulfonylurea or insulin may increase low blood sugar risk. Side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems. Living with type 2 diabetes?
Ask about the power of 3 with Ozempic.
The summer's #1 new show goes Italian.
Will they stay dry, or is somebody coming out all the thing?
The quiz with
Yeah, I'm up on the cloud, ain't coming back down.
First you hear it, then you feel it. That's the crunchy, melt-in-your-mouth feeling of rich toasted chips.
A good feeling.
It's lunchtime, and Gary is double booked. Good thing Gary's company uses Otter's AI meeting assistant to take notes and generate a summary. So Gary doesn't miss a meeting and can regain his lunch break. Try now for free. Visit otter.ai or download the app.
Guys, it's like Dave was made for me. No drama, no games.
Who? Oh, I know Dave.
The best?
Let me see a pic.
A banking app? The banking app for everyday people.
Dave gives you what those other guys don't.
There's no overdrafts or late fees.
You could get extra cash when you need it.
Okay.
I'm with it.
I think I found the one.
There's an easier way.
And we are back here. This the Skag Power Equipment display on the grounds here at Virginia Motorsports Park. It's the Play NHRA Virginia Nationals. And the Skag display this weekend certainly populated with some of the best equipment in the industry. A lot of interested fans over the course of this event made their way through to ask questions. They're still cruising through there today. The Skag Power Equipment team is massive, spanning across multiple categories of drag racing. And we go to the starting line with Tony Schumacher and Sean Reed. Sean Reed comes in with a much higher performing car over qualifying, tuned by Rob Wendland. Reed is seeking an advancement here to the second round, and for Tony Schumacher, he has made 2 straight final rounds on the tour, and he wants to get out of round 1 here. Reed's car hazes the tires. Schumacher's car puts cylinders out, and about as pretty as a third-grade finger painting, but a 409.5 moves Tony Schumacher along.
Look, things just fall your way sometimes, and when you're as consistent as Tony Schumacher has been, your opponent knows that there's a good chance you're going to get down the racetrack. That wasn't the case. It was just like it wasn't the case in the 2 tasty finals where Tony Schumacher just did not get to the finish line, but Sean Reed handed it to him. They lost traction. They were so good in qualifying, but they were in no position to lay up, and you can see that cylinders out for Tony Schumacher. Same case for Sean Reed. However, his car is already lighting those rear tires up.
Tony, I saw you shaking your head when you heard about the reaction time, but for morale for you and for this team, how big was that win light?
It's huge. I mean, we haven't had very good year so far. I mean, we've had a couple races where we showed a little sign of life, but it's been a struggle for this Dodge Power Workers top fuel team. But credit to Mike Domagala, Neil Strauss-Spa, Ryan McGilvery, all the guys in this team. They don't quit. They don't give up. We had some deep team meetings to make sure we're keeping the morale up and just remind them that next week can be a better week, but we're putting the work in to do it. So it's not just falling in our lap. We're working hard at it.
Do you quit?
No, I'm frustrated with that light, like you said, but part of it's because I flickered the bulb finally, and it's, you know, I'm staging like I'm trying to qualify still, and I want to be real consistent doing it. So that was a win for me, but then the reaction time, I think I got so excited I flickered the bulb that I just didn't do the rest of my job.
It is a sport of that absolute micro level decision making, and like you said, it takes a fraction of a second to really throw you off. Jasmine Salinas and Brittany Force, the HendrickCars.com Chevrolet Top Fuel Dragster making its way back. This is the Revzilla Behind the Visor, and this week it's with Brittany Force.
I'm Brittany Force, driver of the Monster Energy Top Fuel Dragster.
Hey Z-Max, how about 336 miles an hour?
Driving style in one word, focused.
Brittany Force, a Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty win.
Work hard in silence, let your noise be your success.
And we will see if she can do it with the assistance of this man and their talented crew. That is crew chief David Grubnick. And for Jasmine Salinas, she is seeking her first career round victory. And Jasmine Salinas' hopes of that go up in smoke along with a backfire as you saw the flash out of the back of the engine. A 392 at 321 miles an hour. An 066 reaction time for Brittany. Bruno, what do you have on Brittany?
You know, checking in with David Grubnick this morning, talking about this team's performance and the struggles they've had this year. And he said, honestly, we're trying to merge together a couple different combinations, going back to our championship form at 22 and mixing with the parts and pieces we had at 23. And I said, have you seen the light yet? He said, yeah, and it's not a freight train bearing down on us. It's the end of the light of the tunnel. He said, we're not there yet. We're about 6 o'clock, and we've got another whole 6 hours to go before we can get back to 12 o'clock, and that's where we need to be.
That's a good run for Brittany Force right there, and taking some notes from her dad, utilizing some of the real estate, assuring that Jasmine Salinas did not get out of the gate before she did.
And we have saved the best for last, inarguably, in this first round. On one side of the racetrack, it is Justin Ashley, a man who had what was pretty much an iron grip on the points lead for a lot of the early part of the season, but that grip has begun to loosen as Doug Kallita has taken that lead away from him. And Steve Torrance of the Capco Contractors Top Fuel Dragster. We have to congratulate Steve, now a two-time father. Congratulations to he and his wife, Natalie, who now have their second additional member of the fleet. And we can talk about the round wins here. For Steve Torrance, one more round win places him in that elite 500 round win club. Let's talk a little more about Steve Torrance, Bruno.
You know, Brian, talking with Steve Torrance in Bristol and this morning, two completely different guys. He was thinking about everything but racing in Bristol, trying to stay focused, but with his wife pregnant and actually had the baby the next day, his mind was in a different place this morning. He said, honestly, I'm not really sure we qualified. I know we've got Justin, someone just told me. I'm just out here to drive the car. My whole life is in a different place right now. I'm focused as can be because I'm relaxed, and that's a place I haven't been in a little while.
I am happy to hear that he's relaxed on a personal level, but not so much on a professional level. We'll see how that works out here. Cylinders out, and the relaxed driver gets a win light. Ashley had him by the neck off the starting line, and his car quit running. So Justin Ashley eliminated. Steve Torrance 401 advances.
Oh, the battle with these two always starts on the starting line, and you can see the difference on the starting line. It's like Jason Voorhees had an 042, and Steve Torrance was taking a trip to Camp Crystal Lake. And it didn't end there. It was Justin Ashley that gets in trouble. You can see the differential off of the starting line. That's what a starting line, that's what quick reflexes due to a driver. But there's the misfire in the cylinder for Justin Ashley. His problems start early for Steve Torrance farther down track, but he couldn't see his opponent. He couldn't hear his opponent. That was a very good sign for him. The engine expires before the finish line, but he gets the win.
Billy Torrance's father was eliminated earlier, but one of the Capco cars and one of the Torrance boys will advance. It will be Langdon and Steve Torrance. It gets no easier for Steve-O. It'll be Schumacher, Brown, Kallita, and Hart. And finally, Tony Stewart will take on Brittany Force in round 2 Top Fuel action. When we come back, of course, it is Nitro Funny Car time. The temperature on the racetrack is rising. The air is as claggy as it's been all weekend. And Matt Hagen is as fired up for another round win as he can be. Stay with us.
Americans turn to RVing in record numbers as they pursue the spirit of freedom and travel exploration.
Life is more than what we've been told it's supposed to be.
The RV community is stronger than ever as family and friends seek quality time together.
To be free, this American dream.
Camping World has been a part of the American dream since 1966. Shop over 6,000 RVs for less than $200 a month, only at Camping World.
Tacos.
Can Billy come out to play?
Yes!
The all-new Tacoma. Toyota. Let's go places.
Everything starts with a spark, a tiny ember before becoming a blazing fire. Just like E3 spark plugs with Diamond Fire technology. Except this is no flicker. It's an inferno waiting to wake up your engine and scorch the streets. From 2 cylinders to 12, maximize your fuel burn with more power and better fuel efficiency. Don't just start your engine, ignite it. E3, what are you running?
Tonight, in your spacious La Quinta suite, your eyes could use a break after a long day of seeing, things. But hey, free waffles always make you forget. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine.
Purina is supporting more touch therapy dogs to make a difference in the lives of more kids, like me. Purina cares here.
All new Subway wraps are packed with delicious ingredients and a pillowy lavash wrap. Finally, a refreshing lunch that tastes amazing.
Perfect for pro athletes like me, right?
Can I finish? Try all new wraps from Subway today.
Looking for the perfect grill? Find yours at Ace, where the perfect grill comes with free assembly and delivery. Find a Weber, Big Green Egg, Traeger, or Blackstone, and get the one that's right for you. Only at your local Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Tuesday, the Summer of Stars continues. First in the Euros, France takes on Poland, and Jude Bellingham leads England against Slovenia. Then in Copa America, Messi and Argentina face Chile. It's 3 huge matchups beginning Tuesday at noon Eastern on Fox and FS1.
If we talk about funny car drag racing at Virginia Motorsports Park, we have to talk about John Force Racing and Robert Height, the last man that won here in 2022.
And this is the same car, same team, same tuner that we have been talking so much about. It was Robert Height in the driver's seat that had evolved into such a consistent and reliable driver.
This week's peak, did you know 7 of the 13 funny car races ever held at this racetrack under the NHRA sanction were won by John Force Racing drivers. Force himself Eric Medlin, Brittany Force, and then Robert Height in 2022. Let's talk about Virginia Motorsports Park a little more in depth. Opened in 1994, held its first national event in 1995. It's the 14th national event held here since then. Corey Mack, the leader in top fuel wins, Force, Johnson, and Hines, the leaders in their respective categories. Let's talk funny cars.
The wheelbase on a Nitro Funny Car measures 10 feet from the center of the front axle to the rear axle, while the carbon fiber body will measure close to 19 feet from front to rear. The chassis is constructed of a high-strength chromoly tubing that will harness a high-powered nitro-burning engine that sits directly in front of the driver.
Now let's talk about Austin Prock, the young man who has been a funny car phenom, cutting his teeth at Top Fuel Dragsters, making the transition into the Cornwell Quality Tool Chevrolet Camaro for 2024 has been not only seamless, it has been downright impressive.
Well, at the highest level of any sport, you have to have a good machine, but you have to have a good, reliable driver to amount to winning races. This team has the complete package.
Like a rocket. A vertical launch under full thrust for Austin Prock in 2024 to Nitro Funny Car. 9 starts, 2 wins, 5 final rounds, 6 number 1 qualifiers. He's won 3 Too Fast, Too Tasty challenges, and a brutal 17-6 round record of those Too Fast, Too Tasty challenges. One, the tortillas haven't even cooled off yet. He won them yesterday.
Look, I don't do popcorn. I do chips and salsa. And right now, Austin Prock is really the talk of the town. John Force is a close second, but head-to-head matches, it seems to be Austin Prock better off the starting line, and his car seems to be a half a foot ahead of John Force.
Austin's with Amanda.
Coming off a very animated top-end interview with Austin Prock, screaming at his team, good job, boys, and telling us he is living his dream. Austin Prock, the number 3 qualifier here today, and you said that you're going to have to adapt to the heat. What is that challenge?
Yeah, it's brutal out here this weekend. I mean, the real feel's probably, over 100 degrees, and when you're wearing a 10-pound fire suit, it's really toasty in there. So machines just don't perform as good when they run hot, but we're going to try and do our best today. One thing is the track's so hot that the cars are running a little bit slower. You could almost eat a sandwich at the 8th mile, but we sure will have fun this weekend, and hopefully we can get another win for this Cornwell Tools team.
Bob Taska III is going to be front of line to try to stop him from doing that as the number 1 qualifier. The final qualifying session, a car that really was struggling on hot racetracks has suddenly been one that ran 3 times straight yesterday.
And for Austin Prock, there is another rooster in the hen house, and this is a rooster that we've seen before. His last win in Las Vegas at the 4 White seems to be back in the mix.
Bruno is with Bob.
Well, we are officially in the dog days of summer, and for Bob Taska, philosophy change because of that. It's really turned things around for this team. Number 1 qualifier, Bob. Was there any risk for you deciding we're going to scrap everything we're doing and start over?
Yeah, there's a lot of risk, but at the end of the day, it was a decision we had to make. We're just making too much power to go down these racetracks. The real unsung hero here is that racetrack surface. That's as smooth as we've seen anywhere in the country. It's like racing on the surface of the sun, though, I can tell you that much. But we pulled a bunch of power away, went with a different combination, and it's paying dividends.
We look now at the first round matchups in Nitro Funny Car, and J.R. Todd and Matt Hagen are a huge one, but we start with Bob Taska III taking on number 16 qualifier Dave Richards. Richards fought his way in the last session. Austin Prock and Cruz Pedregon. Pedregon's car has been showing signs of progress, but Austin Prock has been looking dominant as usual. Blake Alexander and his team made a very nice run in the final session to set themselves up to take on Jim Dunn Racing driver Buddy Hull. John Force and Terry Haddock. Haddock, the very first win he ever scored in NHRA drag racing, came against the winningest funny car racer in history. The number 5 and 12 qualifiers in that pair. This is huge. Alexis DeJoria and Ron Capps. For Ron Capps, a decided average starting line reaction time advantage, but for Alexis DeJoria, the better performing race car under the tutelage of Del Worsham. That's the Titanic run here. J.R. Todd and Matt Hagen, 2 championship hopefuls that do not want to see their hopes dashed in the first round of competition. They'll represent the 7th pair. In the 8th pair of Nitro Funny Cars in round 1 will be Dan Wilkerson and the always interesting to watch Paul Lee. But hitting first will be Chad Green and Mike Smith. Smith driving the Hard Guys car out of Weymouth, Massachusetts, owned by Dana Hard, the first time they've ever qualified the machine. And so now we begin with the burnouts here at Nitro Funny Car. Mike Smith on the right side, and Chad Green's car is sideways. His crew guy kind of jumps out of the way there. The throttle isn't open.
Yeah, throttle's sticking a little bit. It seems to be under control at this stage. He's gone a lot farther than he would typically do a burnout. And he's getting out of the car.
And that is Mike Smith in the Hard Guys car. and those guys just shut their car off. We are going to have no winner out of this pair.
This would be a no contest if they cannot keep that car running and get the car into the stage position.
We are going to wait for word from race control, but it has gone from the weird to the sublime here all of a sudden. Bruno, what's going on down there?
Safety is always.
Dean, any idea what happened?
No idea. Something hung up. Something in the throttle. Butterfly, something. I don't know. Got to get back there and take a look at it. Kind of upsetting. We got a good car this weekend. Good driver. Worked so hard. Terrible to go like this.
Obviously very frustrated Dean Marinas right now.
I think the question is what is happening
with
Mike Smith, because we know that Chad Green is out of competition because his car. Well, take a listen. You can hear the throttle hang open. There's the burnout, and he's off the throttle at this point, but the burnout continues. You can see that he gets the car sideways, does maintain control of the car, and that is very important. But at some point, he must have likely shut the car off himself.
Now let's go to the top end. Amanda is with Steve Torrance.
And Brian, he picks up his 500th career round win at the track that he had his first Top Fuel start. Steve, how do you encapsulate your career to this point?
Oh, I'll tell you, that's been a long 18 years. There's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs, but it's crazy to think back that I've been doing this that long, and this is where it all started for me. And Dexter Tuttle and Evan Knoll gave me the opportunity to do this, and my family. So to be here at this level and accomplish the things that we have over the last 500 round wins, it's pretty spectacular. And to the guys that we've been able to do it with, everybody at Capco. So thank you guys for supporting us. Thank you guys at home for keeping us out here. And nice to win this one and see if we can get 3 more today. We'll have a good day.
So that's Steve Torrance. Bruno, we're getting our money's worth out of you today. You're down at the starting line. What's going on down there?
So they shut up Mike Smith when Chad Green got stuck out of the racetrack, and what they allowed them to do was an offer whether you can go back to the back of the pack and make another run, or go ahead and just take the tree.
So he is going to go ahead and take the tree up here. This will be the first round win ever for this privateer team from southeastern Massachusetts. John Wall is waving Mike Smith into the pre-stage beam. Pretty big moment for any team, and you can take it any way you can get it.
Look, the presentation is great. It's a good-looking car. It seems to have good equipment, and this is the right decision. There is some risk when a car is stopped at that stage of the racetrack.
And that's all they need to do. They're not going to go down there and run the race car. They're going to shut it off. The reason they would not run this car, for simple explanation, they're a very small team. This negates the need to tear that whole car down to pieces and rebuild it between rounds.
Look, every team, every driver's out here to compete, but you cannot blame them. They don't have a lot of depth. They are trying to compete with a lot of teams that do this week in and week out that have quite the inventory of parts.
Amanda's with Chad Green.
Chad's talking about what happened inside of his race car. What was it?
Yeah, the throttle just got stuck in the burnout. When I hit the gas, it just stayed there. I lifted the pedal, full throttle. So I was just trying to keep control, keep it off the wall. It's trying to get to the wall and get the fuel shut off at the same time. Luckily, I was able to do that, and everything's safe, but we're very disappointed after qualifying the way we did and to go out that way first round. Very disappointing.
It is a heartbreaker as you get one last look here. You know, there is some question. I'm sure NHRA officials will look at it, but the need for a guy to be out there at that moment, It
would never happen in any other form of racing. That person that backs up the driver needs to be on the other side of the wall when the track is hot.
The Ford Performance Mustang of Bob Taska III, and now we get into the Versatran Toyota with Bluebird as well of Dave Richards. These guys scrapped and battled their way into the final qualifying session.
Yeah, they just did sneak into the show, but they're here. They're racing the #1 qualifier. And look, Bob Taska is as good as this team has looked since their last victory a couple of months ago in Vegas.
So Todd Okuhara, who works hand-in-hand with Aaron Brooks, and they have worked, as Bob has told us repeatedly this weekend, with parts that are designed to make less power. They've used older parts, they've used an older combination, and it has taken enough off the top of this beastly fast car to allow it to navigate these hot racetracks. Dave Richards, that heat may be an equalizer for the Versatran team. Dave Richards got 8 cylinders lit. They're fighting all the way to the finish line. A 4:06 at 3:06 for Taska beats a 4:18 at 3:02. Richard's best run of the weekend. They can leave with their heads high. Taska moves to round 2.
Absolutely nothing wrong with what the Versatran team did. Another team that rebounded and rebounded very well from how they looked in qualifying. A good start, a good leave for Dave Richards, and a little bit of a layup run for Taska. But you talk about a good, formidable opponent in Dave Richards, but it was Ford Performance and Ford Power that won out.
When we return, the Nitro Funny Car Parade continues, and Austin Prock will try to continue his control of the category.
All you have to do is just look into his eyes, and you know he's got it. The focus, the passion, the fearlessness, it's all right there staring back at you. There's no doubt he's doing exactly what he's meant to be doing.
At Ram, our calling is to build trucks. So when you find your calling, nothing can stop you from answering it.
Fire Department Coffee has something pretty cool to tell you. We're officially in Walmart! And not just this Walmart in our hometown of Rockville, Illinois. We're also in these stores nationwide, too. So the next time you're craving a simple and delicious coffee that'll give you the caffeinated motivation to get through the day.
And also gives back to sick and injured first responders.
Stop by your local Walmart and grab a bag or pod of Fire Department coffee.
Today!
When migraine strikes, you're faced with a choice. Accept the trade-offs of treating, or push through the pain and symptoms. With Ubrelvy, there's another option. One dose quickly stops migraine in its tracks. Treat it anytime, anywhere, without worrying where you are or if it's too late. Do not take with strong CYP3A4 inhibitors. Allergic reactions to Ubrelvy can happen. Most common side effects were nausea and sleepiness. Migraine pain relief starts with you. Ask about Ubrelvy. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Donald Trump and Joe Biden face off. The CNN presidential debate simulcast on Fox. Plus, Shannon Bream anchors
Virginia Motorsports Park, the Play NHRA Virginia Nationals. It is a beautiful facility, one that was saved by the Franklin family years ago when it was basically heading to the auction block, and it's so great to be back here in a national event format. We have Austin Prock and Cruz Pedregon on the starting line as round 1 continues in Nitro Funny Car action. We have seen the advancement of Bob Taska III. We have seen the advancement of Mike Smith. Against all odds, the number 15 qualifier moved on. And with Cruz Pedregon and Austin Prock, Tony, you are one of the nation's premier purveyors of cheeseburgers around this world. So where's the beef for this guy, man? Where is the beef?
Still am. Look, while all this drama has been unfolding before our eyes, the track temperature has continued to increase, to sneak up. If you break down how these cars performed in the very first qualifying session, there was no car that could compete with the Snap-on machine to the 8th mile. They need to take that portion of that run and finish it up to the finish line.
Austin Prock's car wobbled. He's got a cylinder out. Cruz is hanging in there, but it's Prock. It is a 4:04 beating a 4:23. Austin was a ridiculous 0:56 off the starting line and never looked back.
Oh, you give it too much power, you run the risk of losing traction. But Austin Prock, we could see that raw fuel coming out of one of the exhaust pipes. That is very typical when the humidity increases when these tuners are slipping the clutch. But in the other lane, it was a Snap-on car that had similar problems, only that misfire happened earlier in the run.
Thomas Prock is on the starting line with Bruno for this week's Cornwall Crew Chief Confidential.
Thomas, your brother gave you a lot of credit for this car running well in the heat. What is it you brought to the table to allow that to happen?
Well, I mean, it's a group effort. It's not anything that I've done. Me and my dad have just worked really, really hard to try to figure out how to make this thing perform in the heat. It's easier for us when it's cool out. We have a lot of data, and now we're just building a book to run in the heat, and it's just been working. And, you know, sometimes things just work out for you, so hopefully we can keep it up.
So Thomas Prock and his dad will go put their heads together one more time to deliver a race car that this guy continues to drive in an absolutely lights-out fashion. The Pep Boys drone looking down upon the Pronto Auto Service Center. Head contractor's Mustang of Blake Alexander. The Blaze exhaust probes Dodge of Buddy Hull across the racetrack. Buddy, of course, in his first full-time season of Nitro Funny Car racing, and he has taken his lumps like so many have over the course of a first season in Funny Car. What does Buddy need to do here against Blake to give himself the best option?
Our NASCAR friends would call it get up on the wheel. You have to take charge. You have to control the funny car. He has to improve off the starting line. He has to improve in terms of car control. And right now the door opens for Buddy Hull because we can see the conditions. Blake Alexander, like so many other racers, made his quickest run, and I do believe that the track temperature now has exceeded what we saw in that last qualifying session when Blake made his best run.
Alexander so far has run 5 races this season, 3 first-round losses, but when he goes past the first round, he's made 2 semis. Hull's car wags the tail, and Blake Alexander waves goodbye. 4:10.302. Yeoman's work here for Alexander. Hull did get off the starting line numerically first. Took a bit of a bite of the staging area, but he did do a nice job in the starting line.
Yeah, it's great execution. You have to do whatever you can, whatever is in the driver's power to show your opponent a fender. I don't believe that his car accelerated to the degree that Blake Alexander could maybe hear him within the first 300 feet, but you can see that the machine of Buddy Hull, Jim Dunn's car, shut off early, but at that point it was Blake Alexander making another good run.
A super slow-mo look here as the 2 cars make their way past the Christmas tree in the 60-foot block. At that point, it was all 8 cylinders lit for both of them. Blake Alexander advances to round 2. There is Terry Haddock inside the T&D Express Trucking Mustang, and Terry Haddock is the subject of this week's E3 Spark Plugs Encyclopedia, building a team.
To our loyal drag racing fans, the name Terry Haddock is not a new one, but his success of late is bringing smiles to many across the country, and your sponsor is right off camera, and he said, we're just a little operation and we're doing it. What chapter is this for Terry Haddock?
This is the chapter where we thank God every day for letting us do this. Thank him for bringing us these sponsors and my friends and family that throw money at this car, because I went home with the wrong parents and I don't have the budget to do this, and every week we come out and show that when we get a little bit of funding we can compete with these guys. So we're just so happy to do it, and thanks to T&D Express for letting us and all the other people that make it happen.
You're racing your hero in round 1 here today. Do you still chuckle at the idea of racing John Force?
I sure do. You know, John was the first round I ever won out here years and years and years ago, and when we beat him that time, he never shut up about it for the rest of the year, which really helps a small team like ours, and I just like racing him. I mean, all these guys, when we can come out and race the best in the world, we're just lucky to be here when you think about it. So it's cool. I'll race anybody. It's fun, but to race John, it would be neat to beat him today.
His fans would certainly love it. It would be one of the biggest upsets of the season. We look down for the Pep Boys drone. John Force, the Peak Performance Camaro left side. Terry Haddock inside the Mustang on the right side here as Haddock's team makes one last peek around the race car, as does John's. We can see that force majeure. John is the premier and dominating force statistically in funny car racing so far this season, leading really almost every major category. In this first round matchup, a little disparity in the round win-loss record. For Terry Haddock, a career round win-loss record of 12 wins, 106 losses. For John Force, 1,459 round wins against 677 round losses.
But if you are, in fact, as good as your last run, Terry Haddock stands a good chance. He only ran a 4:14. He's a 10th off, but only ran 269 miles an hour. That car did not run the last 800 feet.
Tony coming in from the top rope here. All right. Man, John's car swerved. Oh, Haddock, rather Force explodes one violently across the racetrack. An absolutely brutal disaster of a crash for John Force. The car exploded, it blew the body off it, and it came across the racetrack and made violent contact with the left wall. It is skidding to a stop now as the NHRA Safety Safari has already mobilized itself to respond. At the top end. Boy, that is as bad a one you're going to find out here.
Yeah, anytime you have a lateral impact on the wall, that is really the toughest hit that a driver can take. There is padding. There is a series of padding that is located within that roll cage but you'd prefer to go head on, or of course even back first, because there's part of the chassis that could absorb a lot of that energy. The tire can absorb some of it, but that is a hard impact. I'm sure that safety safari is going to look at John. It seems like the fire has sustained itself. That really shouldn't be a concern. The concern is going to be to look at John Force and to make sure that he shows some signs of being conscious. Well, I think it's important to point out that John had control of this car when it was spinning the tires. It was sashaying back and forth, but there are a couple of things that really stick out. The explosion happens right at the finish line. There's no parachute deployed by the driver at the finish line. There is a safety shutoff system. There's no parachute deployed at a quarter of a mile, and of course, during the explosion, it really limited the driver's view. It appeared to be a chance that John, even after the explosion, after it goes to the right, could have controlled the car to head into the sand trap. However, without that visual, he wasn't able to drive the car.
And we watch this, and the car makes this kind of long arcing corner, and it carries almost all of its 302 miles an hour that it came across the finish line with to that other lane. We can see the course correction really made here, but as you pointed out, Tony, it's a face full of fire now.
Yeah. And John's instincts were 100% right. He was still driving the car, but once the body lifted and impeded his visual, which is by design, those tethers have to keep the body on the race car. You want to keep the fans out of harm's way. The driver is going to accept some of that risk. It did limit his view, but that you saw after it started to veer to the right, his instincts pointed him in the right direction. However, because of the explosion, it just made that hard impact on the left side of the track.
The chromoly steel cocoon that these drivers sit in, they have a protective shield to try to keep as much debris and fire off of their extremities as well. As you can see now, John Force is exiting the vehicle with the aid of the safety safari.
Yeah, and this is a good sign. I don't know whether or not he lost consciousness. However, this is a good sign. They need to get him out of the car. They instantly need to put him on a board, keep his physical movement to a minimum. But this is John Force. This is as tough as it gets, and this is the sign we wanted to see, that he is moving and they're getting him out of that race car.
A 75-year-old man among a very small section of human beings that could even survive this at any age, let alone at his age. We watch one more time, and just such a violent explosion, more violent than we've seen all season, maybe the last couple.
Yeah, we've seen these explosions, but at the rate of speed at 302 miles an hour, and you can see because there are no parachutes, it doesn't scrub much, if any, of that momentum off of the car when it goes hard into that wall.
And you can see that massive rear Goodyear slick. And again, the speed still being carried by the car because the body was tethered. It acted almost as a parachute effect. It nearly lift the entire thing and float it in the air. We can continue to follow the progress here of the NHRA safety safaris. They have now gotten John on a stretcher and will load him into an ambulance. You can clearly see he is alert. He is communicating. He's just sat up under his own power here. It is now, you can see Austin Prock is down there. Brittany Force is now down there. Certainly their concerns are paramount to John's safety. But the safety safari doing what they have done since the inception of NHRA drag racing, as the concern is very, very readily available on Brittany's face. She's going to climb in the ambulance with her father. Austin Prock is down by the ambulance. Amanda Busick is with him, and Austin is shaken.
The NHRA Safety Safari was to John Force within seconds up here at the top end. John Force's team made their way to the top end. Brittany Force's daughter as well. His teammate Austin Prock at the top end as well. What can you tell us about John, Austin?
Well, he's one tough son of a bitch. I know that. He'll be back. It just sucks to see someone go through that. So I hope he's all right. Keep him in your thoughts and prayers, and I know he'll be back. But we got work to go do, so.
And Austin Prock will be racing certainly with a mind that will need heavy concentration on his own work, but certainly a mind that will be reliving this moment, and a moment that so many fans will be reliving as well. The greatest funny car driver of all time injured, and he has been transported from the facility. Stay with us.
Get ready to play NHRA. Play NHRA is a campaign bringing fantasy, gaming, and betting to NHRA drag racing. Scan the flow code to see options available in your state. Sign up for an account and earn bonus bets to use towards NHRA fantasy gaming and betting. Get started at the official portal for NHRA betting. Play NHRA. 21 plus. Please refer to affiliated operators' terms and conditions. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
What does it mean to be built with Summit? It means turning some rust into rolling artwork. Built with Summit means you're making something that was already fast, even faster. It means that your project will be on the road or track long after you've bolted it together. And Built with Summit means you're doing it with in-stock parts, fast shipping, expert advice, and the best prices. Summit Racing Equipment. Let's build it together. SummitRacing.com.
Speed, power, performance, and top-notch results on the turf and on the track. Skag Power Equipment is mowing down the competition. Built by hard-working Americans in state-of-the-art facilities, Skag machines are made to last. Don't get left behind. Visit your local Skag dealer to discover the Skag difference for yourself. Skag, simply the best.
The cockroach, resilient creatures, true miracles of evolution. Where there is one, others aren't far behind. Always scavenging for food, the cockroach will...
Well, that's horrifying.
Near its favorite...
Ortho Home Defense Max Indoor Insect Barrier. One application kills and prevents bugs for 365 days.
Not in my house, you don't.
Nature's wild. Your home doesn't have to be.
I always knew I wanted to pursue a career in music. And throughout that path, I've eaten Taco Bell. It allows me to free up money and time to do what I love to do.
Tonight, in your spacious La Quinta suite, your eyes could use a break after a long day of seeing, things. But hey, free waffles always make you forget. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine.
July 16th on Fox. We're deep in the heart of Texas. The MLB All-Star Game, July 16th on Fox.
The Play NHRA Virginia Nationals is sponsored by Play NHRA. Play NHRA brings fantasy, gaming, and betting to NHRA drag racing. And by Lucas Oil, the world leader in high-performance lubricants and problem-solving additives. A statue of George Washington as we come back now to Virginia Motorsports Park. Alexis DeJoria to race Ron Capps. DeJoria's car was delayed in getting backed up here. It is making its way to the starting line. And Tony, listen, I'm gonna forego anything about reaction times, about anything on that level. On the most recklessly adventuresome day of my life, I wouldn't drive a funny car. Let alone after watching what just happened out there. Why do these people do it, and why are they back in these cars now?
Look, they're competitors, and any competition, when you talk about 330-mile-per-hour speeds, it comes with the risk. You know, a lot of drivers, they talk about some fun and the enjoyment and the challenge that comes with it, but there's no mistake about it. There is a high level of danger when something happens with these race cars, but you have two drivers that have a lot of experience that understand, as a professional race car driver, you have to block some of these things out and focus on what's at hand.
This bizarre first round of funny car continues. Alexis DeJoria's car will not stage. And Ron Capps, on what is an eerily, almost appropriate moment, goes on a single run to go 409.4 at 317 miles an hour.
Well, they did exactly what they needed to do. Of course, during that delay, it was nearly an hour long. The track temperature hiked up close to 10 degrees. So what was already a somewhat of a gooey, slick racetrack and has become more of a challenge was navigated by a team the way they had to. And for Alexis, there had to be some issue. It's within the rules that they don't have reverse. They can push the car back. As long as it goes in forward gear, they seem to have more problems than what we could see.
Bruno Massel spoke to Del Worsham.
Yeah, I tried catching up with Del Worsham, and he was scratching his head, to say the least, and obviously frustrated. He just simply told me, I just don't know, the car wouldn't back up.
And that is a heartbreaker for a team that did have a very serviceable, good race car. The Pep Boys drone shows us the DHL GR Supra, and now it shows us the Dodge Power Brokers direct connection Hellcat red-eye Charger of Matt Hagen. Bruno, what has changed over the course of what has been a long delay of this track baking in the sun?
Well, Brian, it's been about a solid hour. The thing that's kind of saved the surface of the track is we got this cloud car rolling in and out. And from talking with John Oberhofer, he said we really didn't make any changes as we sat here for the last hour. He said we came up pretty close, so as that session came to a halt, he said air's dried out a little bit, so we compensated from that. Otherwise, we came up here we're running the car just like we rolled up an hour ago now.
And these are guys that do have, as we have always talked about, a very good handle on the hot weather racing surfaces. For Matt Hagen, Dickie Venables, and the team, they know that their boss, Tony Stewart, has advanced. It is now incumbent on them to do the same. And they got their hands full out there. A double pedaling run, and it is going to be Matt Hagen. Hagen gets it down first, 4:33.5 at 275. J.R. Todd, 4:39.5 at 264. And this was a very interesting race. It did appear that it was going to be J.R. Todd until it wasn't.
This is exactly what we talked about at the open of the show. This race seems like it comes down to the driver that was able to maintain the throttle better. Both cars get off the starting line, very competitive. See which car loses traction first. Look, nearly identical, almost in the same place, just before the 8th mile. It seemed like J.R. Todd was out of the throttle longer. Now, a driver knows they need to slow the rear wheel speed down in an effort to regain traction, but it was just a little smoother off and on that throttle by that Dodge machine.
Amanda's with Ron Capps.
Ron, you put your helmet back on, you strap into a funny car for competition after seeing what happened right in front of you with John Force. How do you guys do it?
I don't know, man. I sat in the Sequoia there for a while, and it was surreal. You know, watch a helicopter fly out and another one fly back in, and it's just like, what are we doing? You know?
Right side shooting.
Yeah, it's weird. But, you know, then you get in a car and you make a run like that. I hated to win it with Lexus having problems, but yeah, it's crazy. He's our Richard Petty, he's our Tom Brady. I've talked about it. He's everything, so hopefully everything's all right. Love the guy like he's a dad, so we'll just pray for him. But that was a great run by the guys, so we'll see if we can't go some rounds today.
Look at this guy's chin. It's the sexiest car I've ever seen. Look at it, just like.
It is a rare day when I can say this with honesty, Tony. Mercifully, we have come to the last pair of funny cars in this round because it has been such a draining experience. We have Daniel Wilkerson, the Skag Power Equipment, Summit Racing Equipment Mustang, and Paul Lee, McLeod Clutches, FTI Performance, Silver Sport Transmissions, Power Build Tools. And let's be real here, Paul Lee, kind of the guy we have to put our eyeballs on.
I think Paul Lee is one of the most dangerous cars in the field. You just don't know what to expect. When they show up, they can be as good as any. But this seems to be Tim Wilkerson kind of conditions.
And it is Tim Wilkerson conditions because when it spun the tires, it did so after Paul Lee's car did. Lee left first, but it will be Dan, 479.9 at 174.
Yeah, and for Dan Wilkerson, his car was just locked down quicker in the initial 330 feet, encountered problems much farther down the racetrack than Paul Lee.
Bruno.
You know, talking with Dan Wilkerson this morning, and Tony, he said the same thing. This is like whether my dad's been made for. You know, all the years, all the experience, you kind of throw some of the numbers out the window, you tune by gut, you tune by feel, and that's exactly what Tim Wilkerson does. Obviously, got away with one here, but I wouldn't be surprised see these guys be around here late in the day.
As Dan looks under the body of his funny car, we know that he will be racing Bob Taska III. Blake Alexander will have a competition bye run as John Force will not be able to race that round. Mike Smith and Matt Hagen, there's a matchup for you. And it will be Austin Prock and Ron Capps in round number 2. When we return, it'll be time to burn gasoline. 200-mile-an-hour pro stockers. It's Jake Coughlin Jr.'s birthday today, 57 years old. We'll find out if he can win another one for himself when we return.
There is less than 1/100th of an inch of motor oil protecting your car's engine. Friction and heat causes engine oil to experience thermal breakdown, weakening its ability to protect the engine and its parts. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer is specially formulated to resist thermal breakdown, protect vital engine parts, and extend the life of your engine. It also stops smoking, knocking, and oil consumption in worn engines. Lucas Heavy Duty Oil Stabilizer. Keep that engine alive.
There goes Herrera, the high-winding four-cylinder Suzuki motorcycle of Vance and Hines.
High-revving Hayabusa really starts to pour on the coals.
Quickest run in the history of pro stock motorcycles.
Now more of the
Is this it?
This is it! What's the square root of pi?
IHOP?
Some things just add up, like the 2x2x2 at IHOP. 2 eggs your way, 2 bacon strips, and 2 buttermilk pancakes. Monday through Friday, all for $6.
In 10 years, Lisa Schneider will have an amazing second act, thanks to career reskilling courses from AARP to help make sure her income lives as long as she does. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
Higher shipping rates may be the cost of doing business, but at what cost?
Turn shipping to your advantage with low-cost ground shipping from the United States Postal Service.
Just about anything belongs on a burger, as long as it has Sargento 100% real natural cheese. Unlike pasteurized processed cheese food, which is only required to contain 51% cheese. That's why all these people only use this.
Sargento, we're real cheese people.
This week's Dodge Tales from the Strip takes us back to one of the most historic runs in the history of pro stock drag racing. Right here in 1997, Warren Johnson became the first pro stock racer to ever crest the 200-mile-an-hour barrier as he made this run down the left-hand side of the drag strip, which was maybe not as smooth as it is now, but was certainly that good. Oh, by the way, his crew chief at that time, the guy in the red baseball cap, a young man named Greg Anderson. He picked up the bonus. And now, Tony, you pick us up on pro stock cars.
All steel big block Chevy engines with aluminum cylinder heads, electronic fuel injection, 5-speed transmission, and a car that burns high-octane racing gas. Close to 7,000 engine RPM at the launch before the driver releases a clutch for a launch time under 1 second in the first 60 feet of the racetrack. Lightweight, slipstream, carbon fiber bodies with minimal downforce.
Jake Coughlin Jr. made a comeback this year in 2024 to be a full-time pro stock racer, and there were some whispers when he was coming back, people wondering if he had still had what it took to win after his time away from the category. Those questions were answered. He has won 2 races so far this season, including the last one in Bristol, Tennessee.
One thing about a winner and a champion, they never forget how to win. I think Jake occasionally might think, I should have retired earlier if I thought it was going to be this good.
And we talk about Jake Coughlin Jr.'s season stats so far. 9 starts, including this race today. 2 wins, 2 final rounds, a #1 qualifier, a Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty win, a very solid round win-loss record, and 4th in the points right now. Mandy Busick's with him in the pits.
Right here in round #1, we're going to see a repeat of the Pro Stock Final from Bristol, where this guy got the Wally over Greg Anderson. And, Jack, how do you assess the rivalry that is KB and Elite Motorsports?
It's pretty deep. I mean, it's run for years. You know, Greg obviously came on the scene in the early 2000s after with George Marnell and a couple other stints. Obviously Warren Johnson for decades, but always been extremely tough. When Jason Lyon came over and brought a bunch of NASCAR love and attention, they were fast, and they've been a pain in our tails ever since, pretty much. But you know, the last 5 to 10 years, the Elite group has definitely caught up. We've had some extremely strong runs. Obviously, Erica winning a lot of championships in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And but today's today. You know, here we are. I'm ready to race. You know, we haven't had the best of car thus far through you know, Q1 through 3, and but today's game day. It's a new day and ready to race.
He mentioned Greg Anderson, and well, he should have, because Anderson lined up against Eric Anders in the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty final. And as our Summit onboard camera shows us, the 004 light and clear sailing to a win in the challenge. Bruno Massel's with Greg Anderson.
Well, yesterday, Greg Anderson grabbed his first ever Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge victory with a killer 00 reaction time. Greg, well, as a prize for you, you get Jed Coughlin first round. What do you guys have to do to navigate a really hot racetrack? Is there anything left in this thing?
Yeah, there's a lot left in it. The problem is you can't seem to feed it to it out there. The starting line's awful tricky. It's, as you say, it's hot. It's beyond hot. It's like we're racing on the sun, Bruno. So it's a He-Man challenge out there. Yesterday we did a good job, but obviously today you're going to have to do better yet, because there's a whole lot of guys swinging out there. And yeah, somehow I came up with a great light in the final round, and that's the price of poker in pro stock right now. You better find a way to do that, or you go home early. So thank the Lord he got my foot off the clutch in time. I don't know how I did it. I'm going to give it credit to the guy up above. So hopefully we can do it today.
And now let's look at our Lucas Oil competition ladder. Matt Hartford taking on Troy Coughlin Jr. on the left side. Now with Jerry Don Tucker having to take on his teammate Bo Butner on the right. And it will be Dallas Glenn and Mason McGahey as well. Greg Anderson and Jay Coughlin Jr. on the starting line. Now I need to make a very critical repair on some factual information I gave going to break. He is 54 years old today. It is his 54th birthday. I don't want anybody selling me 3 years long, so I certainly don't want it to do it to him. The HendrickCars.com Chevrolet Camaro for Greg Anderson. This is a repeat of the final round, last race in Bristol, but they found themselves locking horns here in round number 1. And the early numbers favor Greg Anderson by a couple of hundredths of a second. It is a 663.5 at 207, outrunning a 669. Next pair up will be Bo Butner, who is back in the seat of a 500 cubic inch pro stocker this weekend, a former world champion, and his teammate at Elite Motorsports, Jerry Don Tucker. And I don't think Jerry wants this interloper in the class to knock him out in round 1.
This is going to be a close race right now, and Jerry Tucker is at a deficit off the starting line. It may cost him.
A whole shot win for Butner. 672.3 beats a 672. And this is what 16 thousandths looks like at over 200 miles an hour. It will now be Mason McGahey out of Odessa, Texas, on the far hand lane of this shot. And it's Dallas Glenn, the Rad Torque System Chevrolet Camaro, closest to us. For Dallas Glenn, it was not his strongest qualifying effort ever. Glenn found himself sitting in the number 6 spot. Mason McGahey, number 11. Glenn's car definitely got a little loose early. McGahey is with him on the starting line. KV horsepower does reign supreme. 665.4 at 206 beats a 666.6 at 206. And now the Johnson's Horsepower Garage Melling Performance Machine of Aaron Stanfield out of Louisiana, and Val Smeelan going out of the tri-state area, racing with Kenny Delco, the Artisan Coffee Company. Stage up here, Stanfield, one of the class's young bright stars, has a 300th advantage off the starting line. Smeelan's car wandered toward the center line of the drag strip, and a 667 at 207 will carry him ahead of a 671. Troy Coughlin Jr., the Jegs.com Chevrolet Camaro on one side, and Matt Hartford, the better qualified car, the Getrek sponsor, Total Seal Piston Ring Chevy on the other.
Yeah, always interested to see how Matt Hartford plays the game on the starting line. He typically doesn't like to stage first. He is the better car, the most consistent car over the weekend. We'll see how he plays it on the starting line against Troy Jr.
It was not a very good effort. I should say the effort was there, but the results were not there for Coughlin through qualifying. 3 runs left him near the very tail end of the pack as we ride along the Getrek's onboard camera with Matt Hartford.
Both pre-stage.
A 20 light for Troy Coughlin Jr., 55 for Hartford, and a 101.60 foot time means that Troy Coughlin Jr., fighting out of the bottom half of the ladder, advances at 667. The Get Biofuel Camaro of Derek Kramer in the foreground, and on the opposite side it is Chris McGahey. His son Mason eliminated a few pair back. We'll see if Chris can do his job here in the starting line and try to knock out Derek Kramer. Only 3 thousandths between him on the lead.
Yeah, very close on the starting line, and if Derek Kramer just a little bit more power in every increment of the track,
Another ET of 4 6s across the board will move Derek Kramer on to the next round, 47 light. Young Brandon Miller out from Canterbury, Connecticut, racing with his dad Dave, his mom Becky, and former Derek Kramer car. How about a 500ths advantage off the starting line for Miller? 44 to Latino's 92. Oh, he got outrun.
It was a good shot off of the starting line. However, Eric Latino had made up most of that performance within 330 feet.
And we get a look here for Eric Latino, the Aquaprop onboard camera. Brandon Miller, to his credit, had a huge starting line advantage, but all that KB Titan horsepower carried Latino to a win light and low ET of the first round. And now it is the number 1 and 16 qualifiers, Kenny Delco, the anchorman of the field at number 16, and Erica Enders, who led the field with the number 1 qualifying position coming into Sunday. Both drivers in pre-stage. Kenny Delco is taking his time getting in. He goes in now. Erica stayed is second. A 47 reaction time for Erica, placing her 300ths ahead of Delco on the starting line. She goes 6:62.9. So Erica Enders has as mean a piece as anybody out here in this first round. She goes to the next round, and Erica Enders will be taking on Greg Anderson in round 2. The 662 and the 663 will collide in that 1-8 matchup. Troy Coughlin Jr. in Stanfield, Latino, Butner, and it is Kramer Glenn. Let's talk to Bo. He's at the top end with Amanda.
A round 1 win for Bo Butner over his teammate on a hole shot. Can you just sit in anything and get it done?
No, but they did put me in a nice car. I mean, thanks to the Quadras, we miss you here. One-time deal for me. Getting this car sorted out for him. Yeah, we can be a little faster, but the car drives awesome. And, dude, I love Jerry Tucker. He's one of my best buddies, and it's not going to lie, it's kind of hot. I got hot top in this other car right now, and it's going to be really hot. So that's the one I need to win in. We'll see what happens.
That other car is a Mountain Motor Pro Stocker. When we come back, it will be Pro Stock motorcycle time as we ride with Matt Hartford. The Getrex onboard camera seeing a whole lot more of Troy Coughlin Jr. than he wanted. It's bikes. They're up next.
To sweet, your eyes could use a break after a long day of seeing things. But hey, free waffles always make you forget. Because at La Quinta, we work as hard as you do, so that tonight you can be the agent of destruction. We get it. You've been building connections all day. Go ahead, demolish that personal record. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine.
This home-style chicken salad wrap from Subway, this is how you do it. Savory chicken, crisp veggies, all wrapped up.
These wraps are amazing.
People can hear my thoughts. That's a problem. Stay fresh out there with all new wraps from Subway.
Looking for the perfect grill? Find yours at Ace, where the perfect grill comes with free assembly and delivery. Find a Weber, Big Green Egg, Traeger, or Blackstone, and get the one that's right for you. Only at your local Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
All right, team, saddle up. I want Q1 full index reports on my desk by noon.
Are you getting any of this?
Yep, Otter's got the meeting notes. I'll ask it for action items in the channel.
Through the roof.
And Maria already asked for a budget reminder. Smart.
You guys are judging by. Got it?
Got it, boss. Otter, you got this.
Yeah, I'm up on the cloud, ain't coming back down.
First you hear it, then you feel it. That's the crunchy, melt-in-your-mouth feeling of rich toasted chips.
A good feeling.
A better banking app is right at your fingertips. Download Dave, and you could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less, right through your phone. There's no interest, no credit checks, and no late fees. Because getting help shouldn't set you back. Switch to the banking app made for you, and you could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less.
Drag racers, also known as modern-day gladiators, pitting themselves against 300 pounds of grinding steel, using nothing but willpower and skill, battling the power of 11,000 horses that run hot, risking it all for a 3-second ride. The battle rages on June 27th through 30th for Summit Racing Equipment NHRA Nationals. With kids 12 and under free with general admission and free parking. Summit Racing Equipment NHRA Nationals.
Brian, let's talk Pro Stock motorcycles. They feature lightweight riders on these two-wheel machines that will utilize their bodies and body English to help steer and negotiate a bike properly on a quarter-mile racetrack. At launch, every rider will shift their backside into a second step of the seat that allows them to better tuck behind the front windshield to reduce drag and allow the over 200-mile-per-hour top speeds. And on this racetrack that is so tabletop flat, they have performing very well like all of our other categories. Tony, you mentioned body English. This guy uses body Swahili, apparently, because nobody can figure out what he's doing or how he's doing it. 9 straight Pro Stock motorcycle wins. 35 straight Pro Stock motorcycle round wins. He is the record holder now in this category for consecutive round wins and 4 wins in Pro Stock motorcycle consecutively. We look over the period of abject domination that this man has been on top of. 9 starts, 9 wins over the last 9 races, 7 #1 qualifiers, and an astonishing 35-0 round win record. And oh, by the way, this weekend, for good measure, he ran the track record to Virginia Motorsports Park at 6:7:03 in the first qualifying session. This week's Suzuki Science of Speed talks about Bob Glidden. Why? Because Bob Glidden is the man that Gage Herrera is chasing. From 1978 through 1979, he won 9 races and 35 rounds straight. Yeah, and what a legend he turned out to be. And for Gage Herrera to be chasing that record just goes to show you the work that Bob Glidden put into it and how impressive that this run with Vance and Hines has been.
That Fairmont, which was shaped like a railroad boxcar, was unbelievable. But then he got in the Plymouth Arrow and continued winning races. It was absolutely awesome. But when Glidden's streak ended, it did not end in the way people thought. It wasn't Lee Shepard that beat him. It wasn't some huge name. It was Randy Humphrey and his team and his Pro Stock car in the second round of Denver. Bob Glidden and Gage Herrera atop this list of incredible streaks. We see Dave Schultz, the man that Herrera surpassed, Tony Schumacher, and Don Prudhomme, as we've gone streaking here in this list. Now let's talk to Gage Herrera. Bruno's with him.
A track record in qualifying gave Gage Herrera the #1 qualifying spot as we head into eliminations, where opportunity is out here for Gage Herrera to break a record that he is tied with right now with the legendary Bob Glidden. 35 round wins. One more, you will have that round record. Gage, has any of this sunk in, the accomplishments you've had so far on this bike?
It's definitely been sinking in, you know. I mean, the accomplishments that have been achieved on this bike, you know, since I joined Vance and Hines has been incredible. You know, I never would have thought anything like this would come about, you know, but I got to give it up to the whole team, you know, Andrew, all the guys at the shop, you know, just reflecting all their hard work, and I'm glad to be a part of it. But, you know, we're going in a race day here at Virginia, and I'm glad to be back at the track. It's a very nice facility, and I'm glad to get that #1 qualifying spot again. So it's going to be a fun day of racing.
But over the last couple of weeks, Tony, this domination has been challenged, and it's been challenged by a singular figure named Matt Smith.
Yeah, and you go back a couple of weeks ago, Matt Smith had Gage Herrera exactly where he wanted him. Couldn't finish the job, but yesterday was a different day, or rather in the Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge. It was Matt Smith taking it to the champ.
He left on Gage Herrera and outran him by a handful of thousandths of a second on that run as we look at our competition ladder. If Matt Smith is to stop Gage Herrera, he's going to have to find him in the final round. They both have to work their way there. The biggest head-to-head matchup here in this first round will definitely be Gianna Evaristo and Steve Johnson. And that is the matchup we see on the racetrack right now. Steve Johnson, the stalwart competitor, has been around since the class existed. And Gianna Evaristo just absolutely shot the bulbs out of the bottom of the tree. A 22 light for Gianna, a 54 light for Steve, and it is Evaristo. A 690 beats a slower 693. She is on her own streak. Mark Ingerson of Ohio on his side, left-hand side of the racetrack, and Hector Arana Jr., the Getrex Buell. On the right side for Ingerson, as we so often say, it is doing what Gianna Evaristo just did is his specialty. His stock and trade, his reaction time. And Hector Arana just matched him. Hector Arana tends to carry more power in that motorcycle, and he will carry it all the way to the stripe. 692 beats a 698. Arana advances. So it is now John Hall and Kelly Klontz on the starting line. This is kind of a proxy war here with the Vance and Hines team working with Kelly Klontz on her tuning, and of course Matt Smith Racing with John Hall. Hall has had a good season. Hall is crowning achievement so far out here. He is a former U.S. Nationals winner, so he has been in big moments and succeeded. Qualifying wise, he comes in as the better performing motorcycle by a significant amount. He ran 679.
You can see the increase in temperature, also the increase in humidity is having a slight effect.
There is a crosswind across this racetrack as well. We'll talk about that more as we get along with things here. John Hall, 688 for 197 for the win, 688.9 for Klotz. Ron Torno and Chase Van Zandt. Van Zandt, the Trick Tool Suzuki. Ron Torno of Rat Racing has once again employed the services of a dancing rat on the starting line, which as yet have not brought him maybe the best results, but maybe we got to give him credit for trying.
They can just position the rat maybe closer to Van Zandt.
Well, Torno bought himself 100th off the starting line, but Van Zandt with his Tim Kalungian tuned horsepower, too much for even the rat to handle. 682.6. There is no joy in Ratville. There may be no joy in Smithville either today, as Matt and Angie Smith have to square up here. The husband and wife tandem side by side on their Denso motorcycles. Of course, Matt Smith is the winner of the Mission Too Fast Too Tasty Challenge this weekend. He's going to try to knock his way through round one here.
Yeah, let's hope we don't smell a rat. Okay, that's the end of the rat stuff. I mean, Matt is looking to get to that final round. If there's any one rider that can challenge Gage Herrera, Matt at this stage may be the only one.
Angie was 0-16 on the tree. She has given him all he can handle out there, and she got him on a hole shot. Holy Christmas. 6.809 beats a 6.78.3. Tony, I can knock him over the feather right now.
I stand corrected. That is a race. You know, she took a shot at him on the starting line, and you can see the performance. He was quicker by 0.04 of a second to 330 feet, but she was able to maintain that lead to the finish line.
That is a racer right there. She just crushed it on the starting line, a half a bike length at the stripe, 21 thousandths. And oh, if those walls could talk. Richard Gadsden and Luigi Kamikawi come off the starting line right now. Gadsden, a 59 reaction time. Kawakawi was 11 on the tree, but it is Gadsden, the Vance & Hines horsepower, the Revzilla Hayabusa. Gadsden number 3 in the points right now, 687 for the win. And now, Tony, the moment we have been waiting all week for. This is Gage Herrera, the Revzilla Vance & Hines Hayabusa. His competition, the Surf motorcycle, as driven by Chris Bostic and tuned by Tim Kalungian. If Gage Herrera turns on a win light, it will become the greatest consecutive win streak of rounds in NHRA drag racing history. Bostic's not going to make it easy. Chris was 007 green. Gage Herrera, does he have enough motorcycle? He does. 6.803, the margin of just 44 thousandths of a second. And for the 36th straight round, Gage Herrera advances, surpassing Bob Glidden's 1978 through 1979 scenario.
Nothing short of impressive for Gage Herrera. Came to the starting line with an 0.30 run reaction time. Give it to Bostic for taking a shot. He even hung with them for the initial first 400 feet, but it was all Gage Herrera after that.
Gage Herrera, low ET of round one, will have a bye in round two to add to that round win streak. Angie Smith was the destroyer of worlds out here in the first round, and she is with Amanda.
Well, not only do you line up against your husband, but you line up against someone that is a multi-time champion in this class. There has to be satisfaction in beating Matt Smith.
There is a lot of satisfaction. He's a 6-time champ, and he's my husband. And it's bittersweet because I want him to win. I want me to win. You know, we're all on the same team. It's just tough, but I'm glad I could turn the win light on because this Denso bike's been struggling. We've just been on the struggle bus, and I'm ready to get off the struggle bus. So thank you to everybody that helps us. IGTG, Mark Stockseth, Outlaw Beer, Smith Trucking, Greg Butcher Trucking. Thank you. We couldn't do it without any of you.
And those trucking companies are backing her up because she is trucking on around two. We now go to the Congruity HR NHRA Pro Modified Series presented by Learn EV Plus. Round one action here. Dmitry Samorukov from Moscow, Russia, and Jordan Lasik from British Columbia, Canada came off the starting line. And Lasik, who has been a phenomenon in this category, the few races that he's run, goes 581 to beat a 589. 50 reaction time. Samorukov did his job in the tree. Car just did not quite have the guts at the big end. Then it was time for Lyle Barnett, the Rife Sensors by Motion Raceworks car, to line up against Ricky Smith. They are from different generations age-wise, but they are cut from the same drag racing cloth, and neither of them wants to give the other an inch. Barnett was 23 to Ricky Smith's 51, and the man that Lyle Barnett calls Father Time, Ricky Smith just thumped a 580 with a 9, beats a 587. A nice battle here. We see the Bahrain 1 Chevrolet Camaro moving ahead. The screw-blown entry on one side of Kallita Albelushi and Chris Thorne on the other.
We're going to see a lot of close races in this first round based on what we saw, the grouping that we saw in qualifying.
They lead within 2,000s. Thorne's car trying to push inside. Albelushi in the screw-blower setup runs a 587. He loses on a hole shot by the slimmest margin of 13/10,000ths. There's the photo.
A couple of lead changes in this matchup.
So Chris Thorne, the former champion, advances, and here comes the Mississippi Missile. It is Jason Scruggs, and Scruggs going to be lining up on the drag strip next to Mike Stavrinos. Stavrinos from Southern Florida, the Speed and Truck World car. Stavrinos comes out of the world of outlaw small tire radial drag racing, and Jason Scruggs comes out of the world of Mississippi beach over the head with it drag racing. 578.8 for Scruggs to advance. Stavrinos a game effort with a 53 reaction time in the Artevinco Chevrolet now. This Sidney Frigo, the car tuned by Stevie Fast Jackson, a guy who could almost run his jaw as fast as J.R. Gray. Remember, J.R. Gray won the final round in Bristol. Then the car failed a post-race technical inspection. The run was negated, so the trophy came out of his hands. J.R. Gray is racing with a lot of motivation here.
300s off the starting line for J.R. Gray. Early problems set in for Sidney Frigo.
And we now see Justin Bond rolling up here, the JBS equipment, Bahrain 1 Chevrolet Camaro as tuned by Brad Personette. And across the racetrack, Epping, New Hampshire winner Mason Wright of the ProFlow Plumbing Solutions Camaro in black. Wright trying to continue his nice wave of success so far this year. For Justin Bond, he left the starting line first, and Bond will keep a car length between himself and Wright down the racetrack. An important note here, this is the final Pro Mod race of their regular season. It is 1.5 points to set the top 10 for the road to the championship, which will be contested starting at the U.S. Nationals. The Culp Lumber Company Mustang of Kevin Rivenbark. The Shelton family owns this car. Rivenbark is the operator. And Mike Thielen, the LearnToFly.com Camaro that's tuned by Ricky Smith, got shut off.
Yeah, shut off on the starting line. You can see the officials signaling to Rivenbark he has a single.
And that was a good thing for Kevin, because his car tried to make a run for the center line.
Yeah, you don't want to cross that center line. If you go over the center line, you too will be out of the show.
And the final pair of the first round this week's Powered by sponsor, DPF X-Bit by Jezzy, Eric Latino's business as Mike Castellano, the Alanabi Performance Colors, and Ken Curtuccio, one of the championship frontrunners in the category. And we look at the early shot there, and you can see Castellano was out, but Curtuccio ran him down at the finish line of 585.5, beats a 585.7. The margin 39/10,000ths of a second. The reaction times also very stout. That wraps up the first round of Pro Modified coverage, and we can see the pairings for round number 2. Scruggs and Curtuccio, Connecticut versus Mississippi. Gray and Smith, Lasik, Rivenbark, and Thorne Bond. When we come back, it'll be Top Fuel Eliminator, round number 2 here in Virginia. A day of incredible intensity shown through the prying eyes of that man. Tony Schumacher is ready for round 2, and so aren't we.
Get ready to play NHRA. Play NHRA is a campaign bringing fantasy, gaming, and betting to NHRA drag racing. Scan the flow code to see options available in your state. Sign up for an account and earn bonus bets to use towards NHRA fantasy gaming and betting. Get started at the official portal for NHRA betting. Play NHRA. 21 plus. Please refer to affiliated operators' terms and conditions. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
We've come a long way together. From dirt tracks to super speedways and every track in between. Never backing down, pushing boundaries, and giving it everything we've got. Yeah, we've come a long way, but there's still a lot more road to run. Goodyear, the official tire of NASCAR.
Look out, 'cause here I come.
Have you always had trouble losing weight and keeping it off? Same.
Discover the power of Wegovy.
And I'm marching on to the beat I drum.
With Wegovy, I lost 35 pounds. And some lost over 46 pounds.
Wegovy.
And I'm keeping the weight off.
Wegovy helps you lose weight and keep it off.
I'm reducing my risk.
Wegovy is the only FDA-approved weight management medicine that's proven to reduce risk of major cardiovascular events in adults with known heart disease and with either obesity or overweight.
Wegovy shouldn't be used with semaglutide or GLP-1 medicines.
Don't take Wegovy if you or your family had medullary thyroid cancer, multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2, or if allergic to it. Stop Wegovy and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may happen, including pancreatitis and gallbladder problems. Wegovy may cause low blood sugar in people with diabetes, especially if you take medicines to treat diabetes. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes, or if you feel your heart racing while at rest. Depression or thoughts of suicide may occur. Call your provider right away if you have any mental changes. Common side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may cause kidney problems.
With Wegovy,
I'm losing weight.
I'm keeping it off.
And I'm lowering my CV risk.
That's the power of winning. Wegovy.
Check your cost and coverage before talking to your healthcare professional about Wegovy.
The cockroach, resilient creatures. Where there is one, others aren't far behind.
Well, that's horrifying.
Ortho Home Defense Max Indoor Insect Barrier. One application kills and prevents bugs for 365 days. Nature's wild. Your home doesn't have to be.
You don't need the same Duracell batteries that help power Williams Racing. Until you do. Duracell is a proud partner of Williams Racing.
This is the scene at Virginia Motorsports Park. The top fuel dragster of Brittany Force in the staging lane. She is heading toward that car, and she will be climbing into it for the second round of eliminations in top fuel. Of course, we know during the first round of funny car eliminations, our K&N Key storyline was set up here, and that is this statement from the NHRA. During the first round of funny car eliminations at the Play NHRA Virginia Nationals on Sunday at Virginia Motorsports Park, we know that John Force suffered a massive engine explosion in the ensuing crash. He was transported off of this race facility site and brought in for further evaluation. Bruno has a report on Brittany Force.
Well, Brian, down here in the staging lanes right before they fire here in top fuel for round number 2. I did confer with the team. They did warm the car up with Brittany, and they had planned all along for her coming back. She said, well, obviously difficult to watch her father being airlifted away from the racetrack. She was here to compete. I opted out not to try and give her an interview. I wanted to respect her and her wishes to go ahead and compete and keep her mind focused as she hops in behind the wheel of an 11,000.
A big sign of professionalism for Brittany Force that she is continuing on this journey today. We now on the starting line have Doug Kallita and Josh Hart lined up side by side. The Mac Tools top fueler of Doug Kallita, a car that has been going rounds and winning races this year. For Josh Hart, this is maybe the biggest test he's faced in several weeks.
We've seen the missteps for Doug Kallita on the starting line. The test for him is to see if he can recover from a quick leaving Josh Hart.
And the answer is Josh Hart has an advantage. Both engines faltering. It will be Doug Kallita, 396.4 at 311 miles an hour. And Tony, one of the things that's happening right now is the sky is darkening over this racetrack, changing the profile of these cars.
Well, it's very humid, and that is a challenge for the tuners. They have to adjust their fuel system as they slip the clutch and try to navigate a track like this. You can see the early jump for Josh Hart, but there's the problem for him right there that sets in early. A misfiring cylinder for Doug Kallita much farther down the racetrack.
It is now time for Antron Brown, the Summit Racing Equipment camera on the back of his top fuel dragster, the Matco Tools machine. Tony Schumacher across the racetrack. Bruno has more on Tony.
Brian, despite not getting a hold of the racetrack in qualifying, Tony Schumacher was uber confident this morning. He said, the last 2 races, we didn't get a hold of the racetrack in qualifying either. We got to the finals and we won. He said, it's about what you do on race day. Our team is good in hot conditions and when our back's against the wall. And I like these conditions. I think it brings more of the driver out. And I'll take Tony Schumacher versus anyone, anytime.
They're both off. It is Schumacher's car that will falter first. It is a 392.3 at 316 miles an hour for Antron Brown, the Matco Tools car. Another semifinal.
This is where Antron Brown is so reliable. He gets off the starting line right alongside of Tony Schumacher, but he knows coming into this matchup, he has had a better car in qualifying. He's not sweating the fact that Tony Schumacher is just coming off a win, a runner-up, a race prior to that. Keeps it right in the center of the track, and he's really been one of the best cars all weekend.
And that is how it looked from the wing of Antron Brown's car. Now it is Steve Torrance and Sean Langdon on the starting line. The Capco Contractors top fueler across the dragster from the Kallita Air Rev Kev Composites. Toyota top fueler of Sean Langdon. For Steve Torrance, this is like the the 7 labors of Hercules. We got the 4 labors of Hercules Steve today. He got around the first round. He's going to need to do exactly what he did here and leave on Langdon.
He's got a real good car to do it.
Sean had a mild starting line advantage. Sean's engine ate itself up, and he got to the finish line. Langdon, in a cloud of piston smoke, goes 397.6 at 307 miles an hour, beating a 397.1 on a whole shot of microscopic proportion.
Well, you can see a couple of lead changes in this race, but it is a starting line advantage, and it is clear to see from this overhead shot what a whole shot does and how big of an advantage it gives the driver right off the starting line. And there's Sean Langdon. He loses one of the cylinders earlier in the run, and Steve Torrance, it almost appeared that he was going to drive around him, but with his cylinder out, a loss of power, it was Sean Langdon to the finish line first.
And now it is the final pair of the second round here, and this will be Brittany Force and Tony Stewart. Of course, Brittany has been able to, or has worked this very hard to push all the other thoughts out of her head of what has gone on today, other than the task at hand. And for Tony Stewart, a guy who's made a career of doing that, he has very little mental weight as opposed to Brittany.
If there's one guy that can handle all the pressure that he has right now, it is Tony Stewart. He's had a good car in qualifying. He had the quick time of the first round, and the biggest challenge seems to be with the tuners, having to deal with this humidity, the warmer temperatures, not necessarily the grip on the racetrack.
This a moment of high tension for Brittany Force as the crews step away. They leave within 1,000. She's driving away from him. Top and oh, he drove around her at the end. A 390 beats a 393. She had incrementally better numbers early in the run, but he caught her at the stripe.
Nearly identical off of the starting line. We'll get another look at this, but it was Tony Stewart that was actually better, quicker by 100th of a second at 330 feet. Then he started to pull away, increasing that lead by 300ths of a second by the 8th mile, 2 mile an hour faster, and that is the way you hang in a drag race for Tony Stewart, getting off the line, recovering very well from that first round slower reaction time, and picking up the pace.
And to her credit, she stood in there pound for pound and punch for punch with him during that battle. It is Tony Stewart advancing to face off against Doug Kallita, a semifinal round for Stewart for the first time this year. Langdon and Brown will battle on the other side. We now will come back after this with Nitro Funny Car action, round number 2. The body goes back on for Matt Hagen. The Dodge pit cam is getting us up to date, and the cars are heading to the staging lanes. Don't go anywhere.
Certain times just call for it.
IHOP?
At IHOP, we don't just put food on your plate, we put a smile on your plate.
Higher shipping rates may be the cost of doing business, but at what cost?
Turn shipping to your advantage with low-cost ground shipping from the United States Postal Service.
It takes the right team and the right tools to win a race. Each of our team members is a professional who has a job that must be done with skill, passion, and precision. No job here is unimportant, and we all work together to accomplish the same goal. That also goes for the tools we use. We need professional tools that will stand up to the intense use required to completely rebuild an engine in less than an hour. Professional tools that are built with skill, passion, and precision. That's why my team and I trust Cornwell Tools.
It's the only thing that matters on this track, and it's the only thing that matters in this field. If you're not making the most of every second out here, consider yourself second place. That's why I run Fendt, with a full lineup of industry-leading machines that maximize my efficiency. If every day is a race against the clock,
do the two-step, then cowboy boogie. Grab a sweetheart.
You could start a farm in your apartment, or you could get fresh groceries delivered.
We have to move.
I felt so grateful when I discovered Coterie. We went from sleeping 5 hours a night to 9 hours a night.
We switched to Coterie, and he started sleeping 11 hours through the night.
When we made the switch, our baby started sleeping better through the night, and we had way less diaper changes.
I need Q1 full index reports to my desk by noon, complete with comprehensive data analysis.
Are you getting any of this?
Insights. Charles.
Yep, Otter's got the meeting notes. I'll ask it for action items in the channel.
Marketing team.
And Maria already asked for a budget reminder.
Smart. Judge mom by morning. Got it?
Got it, boss.
Otter, you got this.
BK melts full of flame grilled layers. Meet the new Philly, it's stacked with flavor. Juicy beef and melty cheese. All these toppings will make you say sheesh. BK, have it.
This is Bob Taska III. The Ford Performance Mustang, which has been very, very consistent this weekend, is lined up next to Dan Wilkerson, the Skag Power Equipment Mustang, with support from Summit Racing as well. The body goes down. His father, Tim, has been tuning this car like a maestro. So we really have two of the most kind of proficient cars in the class right here.
Yeah, and for Wilkerson's car, again, they have to fight and deal with the cylinder dropping phenomenon. And their car has been actually misfiring cylinders from about the 8th mile. This has been a good weekend to this point for that Ford Performance machine.
Tire smoke for Dan Wilkerson, and once again, Bob Taska III completes the trip. 4:12.6 at 316 miles an hour. Print tickets.
Well, they played it safe. They slowed the car down, and that may turn out to be a good move in this second round as the track temperature has crept up. We now see some cloud coming in and knocking the edge, knocking some of the heat off, but it'll take another 10 to 15 minutes. And it was Dan Wilkerson that had the early lead by about 0.05 of a second, the initial 330 feet. But you can see the frustration, the reaction from the tuner, Tim Wilkerson, and the frustration from the loss of traction.
So Bob Taska III heads to the semifinal round. Brittany Force is with Amanda Busick.
Well, there's the competitiveness of being a driver, and there's the emotion of being a daughter. How do you separate the two in these moments?
You know, it's something that's tough to go out there and see what happened. It's never easy, but we know that's a part of the drill. That's how this sport goes. My dad's going to be okay. I was in the ambulance with him holding his hand, and he's one of the toughest people I know. So he'll bounce back like he always does. And I wouldn't be his daughter. I wouldn't be his daughter if I wasn't back up here in that car trying to win this thing with this team for him.
If truer words have ever been spoken, I don't think I've ever heard them, as Austin Prock and Ron Capps leave the starting line. And Austin Prock does the job again. 4:03.6, 321 miles an hour. I don't think anybody wants to race this guy on a normal race day. I certainly wouldn't want to see him today.
Okay, I think Capps and the Napa team are one of the a few tuner-driver combinations that can actually challenge Austin Prock. They've just had a good car. Austin Prock is so consistent, so good off the starting line. You can see the slight edge that he gets off of Ron Capps, and within 60 feet, extended that lead within the first 330 feet. And you can see the cylinder misfire for Ron Capps, and that pretty much took him out of the running.
Another very stout run for Austin Prock as he climbs out of his car victorious and heading to yet another semifinal round. Yeah. Speaking to Ron Capps at the top end. So Blake Alexander, in what is likely the most bittersweet single he's ever had in his funny car career, will run down. It was supposed to be John Force in the other lane. We all know why he's not there. Alexander, this is the business. You take your opportunities as they come up, no matter how they come up.
With everything that we saw from John Force, the explosion, the no parachutes, the impact, the dual impact on the wall, he still got to the finish line ahead of his opponent.
Blake Alexander runs 4:09, 305 miles an hour, giving Bob Taska something to think about, as he will be his opponent in the next round with lane choice. And now we come up to the second round of the final pair of this second round, and that is going to be Matt Hagen, the Dodge Power Brokers Direct Connection Hellcat Red Eye Dodge, taking on the Mustang of the Hart guys, Dana Hart of Weymouth, Massachusetts. His car being driven by Matt Smith. Matt Hagen's got himself an underdog on the other side of the racetrack, Bruno.
Does, and you know, this team has struggled. He said, and they'll openly tell you that. You know, they had a problem dropping holes, and I'm no nitro expert. That what it's explained to me is a lot of times they're dropping holes because you've got too much fuel and you can't ignite that fuel. But for him, he said, Dicky Venables tells him all the time, you know, it's a fine line. You want to dance because you keep pulling fuel away. You get to a point where you're on a razor's edge where this thing wants to go boom. And unfortunately, we saw what happened when that happened with John Force earlier today. He said, I've got my buddy sitting back behind that motor, and I want to dance that line, but not dance it too close and put you in harm's way. So we have to find another way to keep this thing lit from A to B, and we're going to keep searching for it.
A mechanical fine line, a personal fine line these crew chiefs walk every time they set up these race cars. And Matt Hagen will run down, shutting the car off early at 4:26.6 at 252 miles an hour. Mike Smith was severely delayed leaving the starting line. Pedaled the car early, but it is Matt Hagen.
Not just a delay, but a second guess. It appeared a double step, but he was tardy right out of the gate. And you don't see this from a professional week in, week out for Matt Hagen. Steady off the line, just padded his victory and was able to afford shutting the car off early and saving some of the parts.
Another matchup here between Matt Hagen and Austin Prock on one side of the ladder, and Bob Taska III will take on Blake Alexander, who has made another semifinal this year. When we come back, Pro Stock Eliminator will be on the racetrack. Greg Anderson will have another round where his hands will be full with a former and a defending world champion.
First, we did the impossible. Then you ate so many of the impossible that we completely ran out. And now, they're back! The footlong cookie is back at Subway.
Look at you, the big winner. Nah, not you. You use QuickBooks to auto-track business income and expenses, saving you 30 hours each month. That's how you business differently.
Looking for the perfect grill? Find yours at Ace, where the perfect grill comes with free assembly and delivery. Find a Weber, Big Green Egg, Traeger, or Blackstone, and get the one that's right for you. Only at your local Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Just about anything belongs on a burger, as long as it has Sargento 100% real natural cheese. Unlike pasteurized processed cheese food, which is only required to contain 51% cheese. That's why all these people only use this.
Sargento, we're real cheese people.
You work as hard as your truck, and you have no time for downtime. That's why more truck owners trust Blue Def, America's #1 diesel exhaust fluid brand. Each batch is guaranteed pure, so you can avoid costly repairs caused by inferior DEF. Demand America's best for your truck. Blue Def and Blue Def Platinum. Put trust in your truck.
The best teams win, on the track and in the shop. Join the Gerber Collision and Glass team to start winning today. Every crash, crunch, and smash lets you earn while you learn. We provide the tools and training to help you get paid for what you're good at. Solving, hustling, fixing, and the art of repairing someone's ride and making their day. The best part? We have openings right now. Fast track your future. Scan the code or visit GerberCareers.com. Gerber Collision and Glass, proud sponsor of the NHRA.
At Outback Steakhouse, you can get an 18-ounce bone-in ribeye, Kingsland pasta, or sirloin and lobster mac, starting at $16.99. It's better than the actual Outback.
Where the only food for miles is you.
The Dine Under menu, on now at Outback.
Hey.
Hey, I'm inside the bank. Where's the $500?
What?
I don't have much time. Where's the $500?
I said drop your bank, not rob your bank.
What?
I said drop your bank and get Dave. The banking app.
Yeah, I thought this was a lot of work for $500.
You think?
I mean, I would love it if you could come get me.
Oh, no. Oh, she going to jail.
Hello?
There's an easier way you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less when you download Dave.
The Daymaker pant by Public Rec. More comfortable than jeans, more stylish than sweats. With the Daymakers, you can choose your waist and length sizes to guarantee a perfect fit. Now,
This week's U.S. Air Force Aim High top speeds of the weekend. We have to talk about Brittany Force in the first round of Top Fuel. Eliminated the HendrickCars.com Top Fuel dragster, the same car that set the track record in Epping a couple weeks ago. Went down the 1,000-foot course. Parachute came out, 321.27 miles an hour. And these are the top speeds in all 4 of our pro categories for the course of the weekend. We have Top Fuel. We just saw Brittany's run. Funny Car, almost identical. Actually, the Funny Cars claimed the record this weekend by half a mile an hour. Pro Stock at 209.62. And Matt Smith at 200.86 miles an hour. Interestingly, Matt Smith has now made more than 125 runs in his career, over 200 miles an hour. Round 2 highlights here in Pro Stock Eliminator. This is Troy Coughlin Jr., the Jegs.com Chevrolet Camaro, lined up next to Aaron Stanfield, the Johnson's Horsepower Garage Milling Performance Parts car.
Nearly identical in the previous round, both running 6.67 seconds.
Grabbing gears past the 8th mile, it was razor tight, and at the finish line, a 668.5 at 206 defeated Coughlin's 6708, also at 206 miles an hour, a full car length for Stanfield at the stripe. Dallas Glenn, this is a brand new race car that he's in. The Rag Torch Systems colors sustain themselves on the side, but that white Camaro is a new piece. And to get biofuel, Chevrolet Camaro of Derek Kramer, they staged up. Kramer's car, overly aggressive off the starting line, spun the tires, and Dallas cruises to a win.
Yeah, no big surprise here that Dallas Glenn has been so consistent, but if you look at Derek Kramer, he was the higher qualified car.
And then it was time for the big showdown everybody wanted to see. This, Greg Anderson and Erica Enders. Enders came in with about a 300s performance advantage. The Milling Performance, Johnson's Horsepower Garage Camaro, of course, in red, and the HendrickCars.com colors for Greg Anderson. They both came off the starting line. It was Enders that had the better reaction time, but it was Anderson laying down a big number here for the round, a 662 at 207.
More humid conditions, more temperature. The clouds started to roll in to slightly cool the temperature off. And of course, Greg Anderson came up with a big number when he needed it most.
Eric Anders, 665.3 at 208 miles an hour. As we ride again, the Summit Racing Equipment camera with Greg Anderson. Perhaps more so than we've seen in the last half-decade, Anderson has been able to deliver in big moments such as this one with a level of consistency that simply he's lacked.
Yeah, Greg Anderson has just been so strong. When things are going your way, you have to enjoy it.
And this, the final pair of the round. Bo Butner in the Corral Boots Mustang, normally occupied by the Quadra family, and Eric Latino, the KB Titan partner, the Jesse sponsorship, DPF X-Fit, as well as Aquaprop, the onboard camera. The big problem here for Eric Latino was that 186 reaction time. It was no problem for Bo Butner as he goes 671.0 to beat a 671.6. Butner advances to the semifinal round, and the Corral Boots Mustang doing the Quadra family proud. We now see a ride with Bo Butner, the JHD on board. Do a little steering wheel input early, but otherwise a very smooth run for Bo, the latter after the second round. Anderson and Stanfield slated to battle. Butner and Glenn on the other side. It is a split field of KB Titan in Elite Motorsports entries. Now for the semifinal round of Pro Stock Motorcycle. Matt Smith staring at the starting line here. Gianna Evaristo and Richard Gadsden. Gadsden, the Vance and Hines rider, Revzilla, Suzuki Hayabusa. The Scrappers Matt Smith racing bike of Gianna Evaristo.
On a hole shot for Richard Gadsden, it was that starting line advantage, close to 400ths of a second, and 300ths slower on the track. However, that hole shot was enough to earn him the win.
And Gadsden, who's third in the points right now, is looking to maintain that position and continue himself up the ladder with Matt Smith eliminated. John Hall lined up next to Chase Van Zandt. And unfortunately for Chase Van Zandt, his quick reflexes too quick here. 002 red light.
It's going to hurt even more when he finds out that he was quicker on the racetrack.
And so it is. Chase Van Zandt eliminated. John Hall, 685.1 at 151 in the win. Angie Smith, Hector Arana Jr. This time it's Angie Smith turning on the red ball. 34 red. Hector Arana Jr. was the second one to leave. He was still early, but she was early, and she did it first. 683.4 out the window. Arana advances on a 689.2.
Well, it looked like Jr. was destined to red light, only it happened earlier in his case.
Engage Herrera, the solo in round 2. Tucked behind the windscreen. Engine screaming at well over 10,000 RPM, 678.2 at 196.5 miles an hour. Herrera will take on Hall. Gadsden will take on Arana Jr. in the semifinal round. Both Vance and Hines machines are still in the mix. Our SCAG close cut margins of victory, the closest ones of the race to this point. We have seen this incredible matchup between Sean Langdon and Steve Torrance down to about 39 ten-thousandths of a second. Then we watched this Cornwell Tool Chevrolet outrun Matt Hagen in the Dodge 19 thousandths of a second here. It was Greg Anderson by 7 thousandths over Erica Enders of the Johnson's Horsepower Garage Camaro. And finally, 5 thousandths of a second separating Richard Gadsden and Gianna Evaristo in the second round of Pro Stock Motorcycle. One more look at the numbers, if you will, that 3 ten-thousandths or 3 thousandths, 39 ten-thousandths, if we take it out a fourth digit, and you can see the rest of the numbers there. Tony Stewart, Doug Kallita, they are slated to battle in the next round of Top Fuel Eliminator. And when we come back, you will watch just that. A legend and a legend on the rise. Don't go anywhere.
Motorcycle accidents happen fast. That's why motorcycle airbags have gyroscopes that check for a crash 1,000 times a second and can inflate before the rider ever makes contact. Learn how airbags save at revzilla.com/airbags.
Over 1 million motorcyclists trust RevZilla for their online shopping experience. Gear tested by expert riders who can help you find the perfect product for every kind of ride. Visit RevZilla.com.
Some have a drive to seek the outer limits, to ride the edge, testing themselves against the odds and the competition. Put life on the line, to go 330 miles per hour while pushing 11,000 horsepower for more. Some may call them rebels. We call them NHRA drag racers. Get your tickets to the fastest motorsport in the world today. Meet us in Norwalk June 27th through 30th, Seattle July 19th through 21st, and Sonoma July 26th through 28th. Buy your tickets early at NHRA.
Durable protection. Mother's CMX ceramic spray coating. Give it that mother's love.
Ooh, $3.99 and stuffed with pepperoni and cheese.
You want Crazy Puffs fast? You go with Hot and Ready.
Now I have time for more summer fun. Go long!
Walk in for $3.99 Hot and Ready Crazy Puffs at Little Caesars.
Pizza.
To give your teeth a dentist clean feeling, start with a round brush head, add power, and you've got Oral-B. Round cleans better by surrounding each tooth to remove 100% more plaque for a superior clean. Oral-B. Brush like a pro.
Tonight, in your spacious La Quinta suite, your eyes could use a break after a long day of seeing, things. But hey, free waffles always make you forget.
Summer of Stars continues. First in the Euros, France takes on Poland, and Jude Bellingham leads England against Slovenia. Then in Copa America, Messi and Argentina face Chile. It's 3 huge matchups beginning Tuesday at noon Eastern on Fox and FS1.
This week's That's a Repair for Pep Boys. Well, it's our racetrack. Believe it or not, after everything else that's happened today, a squall came through and the racetrack got soaked down. Now, one of the most unique parts of Virginia Motorsports Park, this drag strip is made in a single pour of concrete. There are no expansion joints. It's one of the reasons why it's so flat and so smooth, but it also allows it to dry very quickly. That and the ambient temperature, along with the track temperature, allow the NHRA Safety Safari to turn this track around from end to end in a much shorter time than most other drag strips take to dry. The Safety Safari are the hardest working people on the property. They aided John Force earlier. They got our racetrack turned around now. And the Top Fuel semifinals are at the ready line. Doug Kallita and Tony Stewart. Mega side-by-side matchup. And the first pairing we'll see, Sean Langdon and Antron Brown. All right, Tony, as this afternoon has turned into the drag racing version of an M. Night Shyamalan movie, the plot twist here has to favor one of the other drivers. For Antron Brown, he comes in as the better car at 392.3. Langdon ran a 397.6. But that was on a racetrack that was way over 140 degrees, which is not the case right now.
Those temperatures favor certain teams. Antron Brown seems to be one of those cars. These conditions are now going to swing the way of a car that's tuned by Kallita, Alan Johnson. It's going to favor the higher-powered cars. There's more track. The track went from 144 degrees to now 117. So they're going to select a more generous target, a much quicker racetrack. They're going to be able to call on some of that thunder and some of that horsepower.
Bruno has more on the racetrack.
So, Tony, you know, you're talking about the track conditions. Obviously, it's a smooth track now. It's only 119 degrees, down 20. But air conditions right now, what we've got is the temperature's dropped a bunch, but the humidity is through the roof. We're at almost 140 grains of water in the air, which means, man, it is just hard to breathe. And it is hard to burn, so a lot of these teams are taking them right out of their tuning window. So now it's a matter of compression, spark, blower to compensate for the poor air we've got right now. Now you have to make power before they're trying to take power away. So a completely different animal in just about a two-hour period of time. And the tuners that have data on this are the ones that have the advantage here in the semis.
They have to make more power, but now they're going to be able to load the clutch with more weight. That's going to put more of a load, more likely to burn that fuel.
Before these two cars came around the corner to the ready line underneath the spacious timing tower here at VMP, the teams were doing things like changing the supercharger pulleys. They were making last-minute mechanical changes to these cars. The Mecco Tools, Toyota, Sirius XM, Hank Sturfer's Dragster. We look at the averages, the performance averages of the two drivers. Antron been quicker on the starting line, been quicker to the finish line, not by much, but potentially by enough, as Brian Hewson cues his driver, Sean Langdon, who is the first to pre-stage. And under these cloudy skies, Sean Langdon flies down the drag strip. 381.5 at 326.40 miles an hour for Sean Langdon.
Well, this is the chess match that the tuners are faced with, and both cars delivered, making the two quickest runs that we've seen all weekend. And better off the starting line was Sean Langdon by close to 300ths of a second. You can see the differential on the starting line, just a quicker reflexes, and Antron Brown was playing catch up with the slower car. It was in every increment, 330 feet, extended the lead out even more at 660 feet. But as a driver, this is an awful scary visual when the driver, like Sean Langdon, gets the jump on you.
A whole lot of Kallita Air logo and the Antron's onboard as we watch one more time from down the racetrack and look at the incremental performance. And you can just see that pounding, brutal performance early. More power application quicker, more efficient trips down the racetrack. This is the Kallita Air team. Chad Head, crew chief Brian Hewson, pump their fist. They know they made the right call. Who's going to make the right call in the next pair? We can talk about these two cars in the same vein. Why? Because one of them is a team car to Sean Langdon. On the starting line is Doug Kallita, and next to him is Tony Stewart. Now, the last time these guys raced head-to-head in a high-pressure situation was in sprint cars about 30 years ago.
Well, they've competed on the track against one another, and a lot like Antron Brown, things were really going Tony Stewart's way. In qualifying on a hot track, they did some testing a few weeks ago at IRP, 90-degree conditions, and it seemed like they've been able to apply some of what they learned there. However, just like the cars in front of them, the game for both of these drivers and tuners have changed.
As we look down from the Pet Boys drone and get a look at Doug Kallita's car, we go back down to Bruno Mansell.
You know, Tony, you talk about the testing they've done. I mean, talking with Neil Strasbaugh this morning, he was very adamant about the fact that how much pressure he felt because the car wasn't running up to par. He knows the expectations out here. So basically they look within their team, within the Funny Car team, to give them another set of eyes on the data. And he said they looked at some stuff that they were kind of neglecting as points of, we couldn't get away with this, how about this? And they decided to go down a different path, and that path has led them to a #3 qualifying spot in a car that is going down the racetrack with consistency. Obviously conditions have changed, but they've got a baseline now to tune off of. You've got to think that at least they've got a fighting shot here.
Yeah, I have to believe that as well. And again, we look at these performance averages on reaction time and elapsed time. It is an offsetting set of averages here. Doug a little bit better on the starting line, as Tony Stewart's been a little bit better on performance. If indeed Neil Strasbaugh, Mike Damagala, and Tony Stewart can't jump up and perform with Doug Kallita in these situations, I will look at this team differently going forward.
Well, that's exactly what they need to do, but they know based on the previous pair what the target is now and what the track will hold.
Stewart was 47, but he had to pedal the race car, and Doug Kallita with all 8 header flames lit will go to an all Kallita Motorsports final round again this year. 382.8, 326 miles an hour, and Connie is smiling at this. What a performance out of these two cars.
And I think it's real unfortunate that the conditions changed for Tony Stewart, and if there was one thing that he needed to improve as a driver in this semifinal higher stakes matchup was to be better off the starting line. And he did exactly that. This is what you call execution. This is why Tony Stewart comes very well equipped to drive one of these machines, and you can see the problem. And again, this is great throttle control. Unfortunately for Tony Stewart, after a nice job of getting off and back on the throttle and allowing that rear tire to recover and regain traction, it was Doug Kallita making a carbon copy of his teammate's run.
A racetrack that has had multiple personalities has acquired another one. Very, very fast. When we come back, the Dodge pit cam will show us Matt Hagen's starting car at the starting line.
USA versus Panama, Thursday on Fox.
Tired of frequent nighttime bathroom trips? Well, Force Factor Prostate helps reduce urges to urinate, plus fully empty your bladder and promote a normal prostate size. Don't settle. Rush to Walmart for Force Factor Prostate from the #1 fastest growing men's health brand in America.
Guys, how frustrating is it to find a great pair of jeans? Too tight here, too loose there, too long there? Standard jeans use just 2 measurements. Taylor Custom Jeans use 7 different measurements to give you the perfect fit. Your phone can measure you right now. Download the Taylor app on iOS or Android. Choose from hundreds of styles. Taylor measures you digitally and is 20% more accurate than a professional tailor. With free shipping and a money-back guarantee, get your new favorite pair of jeans today. Taylor, available on the Apple App Store or Android.
BK melts full of flame grilled layers. Meet the new Philly, it's stacked with flavor. Juicy beef and melty cheese. All these toppings will make you say sheesh. BK, have it your way.
We didn't just bottle lightning. We wrapped it in a metal shell, insulated it with high-density porcelain, and topped it off with diamond fire technology. So you can unleash a bolt of all get-out that turns crankshafts and heads like nothing you've ever seen. E3 Diamond Fire technology maximizes the fuel burn for more power and better fuel efficiency. E3 with Diamond Fire technology. What are you running?
Introducing the most powerful Tacoma ever.
Shut the front door!
Shut the front door handle. Also known as the Seriously Wrong handle. Or the Whoa 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 handle. And even the No Me Gusta handle. Standard on the all-new Toyota Tacoma.
The Mission Foods autograph session here in the pit area at Virginia Motorsports Park. All the drivers lined up, signing their autographs, meeting their fans. This happened earlier in the weekend under those brutal 90-plus degree temperatures. The fans got a little respite under the tents there, meeting drivers like Matt Hagen, Clay Millican, and others as they got themselves ready for the Mission Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge, which occurred here on Saturday, Virginia Motorsports Park. That is Blake Alexander, his crew chief and car owner, Jim Head, underneath the body. Let's talk more about Jim Head.
You know, Brian, Jim Head's one of these guys who is not happy with the condition change we've got. Obviously, you got to play the hand you're dealt, but he came into this with a very specific attitude, and that was to bring a car that wide open can only go 4.0s. He said he found something in Chicago when we had hot, humid temperatures that worked for them, and that's what the game plan has been, and it's worked. Rather than taking a car that goes 380s and have to detune it, he took a car that can go 4.0s wide open and run it safe. Now he's got to find a little extra power because conditions have changed. Does he have that tune-up here? That's the question.
When I was a kid at home on the riding lawnmower, it had 2 settings, rabbit and turtle. Both Taska and Head have admitted that they brought the turtle setting this weekend. They got to find the rabbit now.
They're both going from eco mode to sport mode, no question about that.
And Bob Taska may have enough. He does. 398 beats It's a 399. That was a battle. 0.48 reaction time for Taska. 330-mile-an-hour speed, the biggest number we've seen out of a funny car.
Well, the numbers on the track were close, but anytime a driver gets close to 0.03 of a second, they're going to compound the way it looks. And there again, you can see the starting line advantage. The numbers indicate that Taska was quick off the line. That means that he utilized some of the real estate on the starting line. What it does is it shortens up the track to some degree. It was Blake Alexander with a good jump off of the starting line, was actually quicker to 300 feet, but the numbers get a little skewed by the way the driver stages. However, the race is to the finish line, and it was Ford Performance going to their final since a couple of months ago in Vegas.
Sean Langdon, one half of the Kalitta Bash brothers, is with Amanda.
Sean Langdon into his 4th final of the year, and I heard your crew chief say that it was kind of a crapshoot of what he was going to do on tuning this dragster. You guys were part of the first pair to see this after the rain. What were your expectations?
I really didn't know. I asked Brian. He goes, "Well, I haven't raced in 166 grains before," so he goes, "I don't really know." And I saw a lot of shoulder shrugs, but I got all the faith in the world in this Kalitta Air Toyota team, man. They've been making good runs all year, and that just goes to prove it right there. The track's good, and we got a good race car. So did Doug win there? All right, perfect. We got 2 Kalitta cars in the final.
The Kalitta team reminds me of the Boston Celtics in the respect that we saw what they were capable of to a degree at the end of last year, and they have matured into something that is truly spectacular to watch. And yes, I'm from Boston. Right side of the racetrack, right side of the racetrack is Matt Hagen. Left side is Austin Prock. Now, as we have talked about these one team or the other team being favored, because of these ever-changing conditions, both of these crew chiefs are going, bring it on, baby. Both of these crew chiefs, Dickie Venables for Hagen and Prock for Prock, of course, love it.
Look, and the versatility of the Prock machine that's tuned by Jimmy Prock, that's driven by Austin Prock, they've been good when it's cool. They've been able to adapt to the hotter conditions and really be among the best cars, if not the best car out here. The issue with Matt Hagen, and the reason that he'll be in this matchup, is his car has accelerated from the starting line to the 8th mile very impressively. They have not been able to slow the clutch down and keep the car from spinning the tires down track. But now with these cooler temperatures, the track will come in from the 8th mile to the finish line. That should put Hagen in the game.
It would be beyond shocking if the 398 that Bob Taska just laid down remains the low ET of eliminations, as Dickie Venables across the racetrack brings his driver Matt Hagen forward, as Jimmy Prock does to his driver and son Austin here in the Cornwell Quality Tools Camaro. The 2 cars hammering down the drag strip. It is Austin Prock at 396.2, 316 miles an hour, the quickest run of the weekend so far in funny car. Not the fastest, but the quickest.
Yeah, it's a gamble for the tuners making the decisions, and for Dickie Venables, the tuner for Matt Hagen, just not quite enough power or not quite enough clutch application early enough. It's a little bit of a
quickest run of the weekend so far in funny car. Not the fastest, but the quickest.
Yeah, it's a gamble for the tuners making the decisions, and for Dickie Venables, the tuner for Matt Hagen, just not quite enough power or not quite enough clutch application early enough. It's a little bit of a rabbit test for most of these tuners, but they know what the target was. They know what the track would take. You can see it almost seemed like Hagen was out to the early lead. He got a few hundredths of a second off of the starting line for Austin Prock, but just didn't have the power to carry that Dodge to the finish line.
Bob Taska III is with Amanda Busick. The Ford Performance Mustang has been through the heat, it has been through the cool, and it's headed to the final.
Bob, it seems like Austin Prock's been taking this class by surprise this season. What do you make of him?
Well, for me, right now, it's just a little different mood out here. I'm just looking forward to seeing my cell phone ring and John Force being on it. So, what we do is real dangerous. And, we come out here, we have a lot of fun and up and down the racetrack. But bottom line is, this is a scary sport. What happened to John is frightening. From what I hear, he's going to be okay. We left all our Go Fast stuff home this weekend. I got to go back in the trailer, see if we can dig some stuff up to run with this young gun out here. But just want to let John know that we're thinking of you and can't wait to see you back out here.
He shares the absolute sentiment of everybody on the property here as he is going to climb on. And this, not just the team, but his sons out there celebrating on the starting line. It will be a Ford and a Chevrolet in the final round of Nitro Funny Car. When we come back, Pro Stock Eliminator, the semifinals will be up. Greg Anderson will be geared up. Bo Butner will be geared up. Dallas Glenn will be geared up. And we will bring it all to you here. It's going to be a late one, or at least a later one than we planned at VMP. Don't go anywhere.
Every Saturday, your game is on Fox. Because if baseball is as American as apple pie, Monster Shot! Then Fox Saturday Baseball is one heck of a slice. Sit back and make some room for a big old helping. Boom! Goodbye! Come on, it's Saturday.
Is bad debt holding you back?
The only limit is the sky. It's our time. You don't wanna miss it. It's our time. You don't wanna miss it. It's your moment in the spotlight.
All your ambitions, all in one app. Low fixed rates, borrow up to $100K, no fees required. SoFi, get your money right.
In 10 years, Lisa Schneider will have an amazing second act, thanks to career reskilling courses from AARP to help make sure her income lives as long as she does. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
More dropping in. More getting out there. More soaking it up. Pacifico, life's waiting. Looking for the perfect grill? Find yours at Ace, where the perfect grill comes with free assembly and delivery. Find a Weber, Big Green Egg, Traeger, or Blackstone, and get the one that's right for you. Only at your local Ace.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
The Taco Bell Cravings Value Menu. 10 choices, each just $3 or less. Starring the 3-cheese chicken flatbread melt. Grilled chicken and gooey cheese snuggling up together in a pillowy flatbread. Get it on the Cravings Value Menu, only at Taco Bell.
Donald Trump and Joe Biden face off. The CNN presidential debate simulcast on Fox. Plus, Shannon Bream anchors special Fox coverage.
Jerry goes off-grid almost every weekend, but now, a Friday last-minute meeting? Otter has Jerry covered with an AI meeting assistant to take notes and capture action items, so Jerry can go camping and be ready for Monday. Sign up for free. Visit otter.ai or download the app.
This is The History of Glasses by Warby Parker. A theory of optics emerges in Egypt. Then for a while, not much happens, with glasses at least. A millennium later, the first pair is made near the Leaning Tower of Pisa. It had just started leaning. Glasses exist now. People can see, but they're more expensive than they need to be. So we start Warby Parker. We cut out the middleman to design higher quality eyewear for an actually fair price. Shop it at home, in stores, even virtually. It's the 21st century, not medieval Italy. That's the history of glasses and the future. Come see.
Is a part of every NHRA national event. You can see the crowd here this morning getting out there and getting some steps in. They were already sweating, as you could tell. It was already about 85 degrees this morning when this walk began. The track itself was heating up by the minute. Plenty of traction, certainly plenty of dedicated Virginia Motorsports Park fans taking advantage of a unique opportunity in motorsports to take a walk on the actual drag strip where competition takes place. Dallas Glenn and Bo Butner come to the starting line right now. Butner has kind of bushwhacked his way here to this semifinal round. He ran 6:71 with an 0:59 reaction time last time down the racetrack. Dallas Glenn was 36 green and then 6:69 at 6 to get himself here in this new Jerry Haas-built Rad Torque Systems Camaro. I guess two things we can think here. One, Bo can't be 59 again, and I don't think Glenn can afford to be 69 again. Bruno, what you got on Dallas?
You know, for Dallas this weekend has been auspicious beginnings, to say the least. He's in a car that he found out he was going to drive on Thursday that's been brand new, and when he pushed the button, the line lock to do his first burnout, it shot the chutes out because they had the buttons wired backwards. So for him, it was just getting down the racetrack. Then he breaks the motor in Q2, and they were really lost as a team, but obviously with the data they have from KB and the horsepower they have and his talent behind the wheel, he actually says this car reacts better. It gives him a bigger cushion on the starting line, and you can see he's advanced here to the semis.
I mean, sometimes some chaos can help, right?
It doesn't hurt for Bo Butner. I mean, it's a great welcome back to get to the semifinals, but he knows he is up against a sharpshooter on the starting line in Dallas Glenn.
He was quicker. 33 for Butner, 41 for Glenn. Does the Corral Boots Elite Motorsports Mustang have it in the tank? It does not. 663 won at 206 miles an hour. The points leader. maintains his position, 665.8 at 205 in a game effort for Bo Butner.
Well, he sure made it a lot more interesting than it would have been. Nearly, in fact, identical at 60 feet, but it was 200ths quicker at 330 feet that really made the biggest difference. It was on the starting line for Bo Butner that made it close at that finish line.
So that 6.631 second blast, will it be good enough for lane choice? As we watch one more time here, 67.2 for Dallas Glenn, and Bo Butner the 69.1. So with that number run and our Lucas Oil finish line cam showing us the physical difference, let's take a ride here at the Johnson's Horsepower Garage onboard camera, riding with Butner in a tight one. He peeked over.
Well, he only peeked over because likely he saw a slight nose. He knew, a driver typically knows when you have a good reaction time, you can feel it, but you hear the audio next to you and you see that white fender, is never a good sign.
Amanda's at the top end with Matt Hagen.
Matt, we know you've battled it out with John Force over the years. What would you like to share?
Oh, man, we just love you, brother. Hope you're doing okay. Don't let that be your last ride. We know what a tough SOB you are, man. So if anybody can bounce back from that kind of stuff, you can. Just be thinking about you, praying for you, love you.
And again, the sentiment shared around the pit area and around the sport of drag racing immediately after this cataclysmic event happened. The car explodes and in flames, goes across the racetrack. Just an impact beyond punishing.
I'm sure what the tech department is going to look at or why the parachutes did not deploy. Yes. John Force was well in control of that car when it was spinning the tires, when it was dropping cylinders. Even when the car exploded and made the initial move, he made the right correction. It was when the body took away his visual that the car went hard into the wall. So there's some things that I'm sure NHRA is going to look at.
He was transferred off-site. He is at the hospital under observation now. Aaron Stanfield and Greg Anderson will line up to the trip to the Pro Stock Finals. The HendrickCars.com Camaro, the Johnson's Horsepower Garage, Melling Camaro of Aaron Stanfield. Double 03 green for Stanfield. Unless the crank falls out, this should be enough, and it is. A 6.62.7 beats a 6.62.7 by the margin of reaction time. 39 thousandths.
A 003 reaction time against an 042. I think Robocop said it best. There will be trouble. It is not likely.
Yes, I agree.
It's an elite car. It's Aaron Stanfield. The reaction time doesn't really surprise you. He's young. He's very good off the starting line. And Greg Anderson has been able to call on the thunder and be good when it matters most. But it is so hard to keep that pace up. And he may have laid up a little bit too much. And it cost him because the slower car on the track was quicker off the line and makes the difference.
It will be a replay of the Chicago final round of Aaron Stanfield. The total time of 6.63.0 and 7/8 of a Camaro length as they got to the finish line. We ride with Greg Anderson on his final trip of the afternoon. Let's listen. You're watching the NHRA on FS1.
If your business needs a new application, then developers will have to write code. A lot of code. If an application needs to be modernized, then you'll need time, resources, and caffeine. If this sounds daunting, then use Watson X Code Assistant. AI designed to multiply developer productivity so you can generate code quickly. Let's create a more modern foundation for business with Watson X Code Assistant. IBM, let's create.
Mother's CMX ceramic spray coating. Goes on lightning fast, wet or dry, for super hydrophobic, ultra durable protection. Mother's CMX ceramic spray coating. Give it that mother's love.
This will be a gold mine of local income.
So tell us about this corn festival.
Oh, you got your corn pudding.
So is it safe around here?
Sometimes.
No eyebrows?
Think of how light it'll feel in the summer. We gotta run. 11,000 more neighborhoods to go.
Ding dong.
Homes.com.
Tonight, in your spacious La Quinta suite, your eyes could use a break after a long day of seeing, things. But hey, free waffles always make you forget. Tonight, La Quinta. Tomorrow, you shine.
Ooh, carne asada.
It's carne asada. That's what I said. Carne asada.
Carne.
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 But with more flavor. Carne.
Carne.
Try saying it like this. Juicy carne asada.
Carne asada. Carne. I did it. And you rolls.
One of the main reasons for poor vehicle performance is a dirty fuel system. It can cause decreased fuel economy and actually do harm to your engine over time. By adding Lucas Fuel Treatment to your vehicle, it cleans and lubricates the entire fuel system, pump, carburetors, fuel injectors, and valves as you drive. It also improves your vehicle's performance. It's a non-solvent product designed to protect both gasoline and diesel engines. Lucas Fuel Treatment. It works.
Americans turn to RVing in record numbers as they pursue the spirit of freedom and travel exploration.
Life is more than what we've been told it's supposed to be.
The RV community is stronger than ever as family and friends seek quality time together.
To be free, this American dream.
Camping World has been a part of the American dream since 1966. Shop over 6,000 RVs for less than $200 a month, only at Camping World.
Get ready to play NHRA. Play NHRA is a campaign bringing fantasy, gaming, and betting to NHRA drag racing. Scan the flow code to see options available in your state. Sign up for an account and earn bonus bets to use towards NHRA fantasy gaming and betting. Get started at the official portal for NHRA betting. Play NHRA. 21 plus. Please refer to affiliated operators' terms and conditions. Void where prohibited. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is the scene right now at Virginia Motorsports Park. The Getrex Buell being ridden by Hector Rana Jr. as these play NHRA Virginia Nationals work their way through the semifinal round. It will be Rana Jr. taking on Richard Gadsden. Gadsden driving the Revzilla Motul, Vance and Hines, Hayabusa. We saw something interesting in Hector Rana Jr.'s last run, in that both he and Angie Smith left before the green light, but Angie Smith did it in a deeper level. So Rana was able to advance. He needs to stop doing that.
Well, for Hector
he can't
Jr.,
do it here.
It's got to be out of sight, out of mind. He's been in those situations before. He knows that he has to make the adjustment on the starting line. You cannot lay up too much and allow Richard Gadsden outperform you.
And guess what? 064 red light start for Rana. The happy clutch hand got him. Richard Gadsden's going to another final round. 681.3 at 198 miles an hour. He is a third place runner in the points, and he is chipping his way ever so quickly up to second because Matt Smith went out first round, and he is going to the final.
Well, it was out of sight, but it wasn't out of his mind. Another foul start for Hector Jr., and you can see how much performance that Richard Gadsden picked up because this track has really cooled off for the bikes. It's not necessarily the cooler air. It is still awful muggy out here, but it's the fact that they have better traction and more of it.
We can see them again staying down the center of the racetrack, and Hector Rana Jr. chopped the throttle early. Now let's talk to Dallas Glenn, who is with Amanda.
Dallas, you were the first of the Pro Stock cars to see this track at this point after the race. What can you tell us about it?
I think NHRA did a fantastic job prepping that thing. It did a big wheelie, went far left, and I know I was out of the groove, and it stayed planted the whole time. So big thanks to NHRA for drying the track out. But, you know, I'm just trying to get a trophy for Tammy P from Brad Torque Systems. You know, they're cheering us on. She's in Hawaii right now for her birthday, but we'll be seeing them soon in Hawaii. But right now we got another final round for DPF Parts Direct and Jesse and Summit and everybody at Rad Torque Systems and KB Titan. Hopefully we can get two of us in the final.
John Hall becomes the next person in line to try to stop Gage Herrera's round win streak. Came in at 35, it was 36, now it's 37. And Hall may have a fighting chance here. Herrera, an uncharacteristic 084 reaction time, and it is going to be Gage Herrera, 676 at 199 miles an hour. He is rapidly approaching 40 now with his 38th straight round win, and you can see the reaction from Angie Smith.
It was a better reaction time for John Hall, but when you go up against Gage Herrera, when you're in the semifinals, you have to take a shot. I'm not saying you have to gamble, but you have to be very calculated and understand what you have to do, and you really had an opportunity to catch Gage Herrera sleeping. The performance improved for John Hall, and while it was a better reaction time, close to 300ths of a second, it wasn't quite enough. You can slide a 20 or 30. You make this race much closer.
You can see Gage's bike was actually pushing its way toward the center line of the drag strip by the time he got to the finish line. Was not in jeopardy of the center line, but he does finish and make his way to a final round, which will be an all Vance and Hines affair. Richard Gadsden will be facing off against Gage, and Gadsden will make his first final round appearance in his young Pro Stock motorcycle career. A great shot there at the Lucas Oil finish line camera. Let's talk to Richard Gadsden, who's with Amanda.
first side-by-side final for Richard Gadsden, and it's against the guy that has set some records here today. What do you know about your teammate that you can get him?
I know he's amazing. I know that he won't leave the door open. I know that I'm going to have to either outrun him or something's going to have to happen to him. But, we push each other. He's really good, and, I'm starting to hit my stride too. So, Lord willing, we can find a little performance, and I can give him a good run.
And that is the end result of what we all want to see, a final round that'll be a whole lot of orange and black. The Vance and Hines team bumping knuckles down there as Gage Herrera, for the 38th time straight, has won his round, the greatest streak in NHRA history. We'll be right back with more from Virginia.
Get ready to race down the track with Mission Foods. It's a green light for the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series, packed with fast action and tasty products. Fully loaded tacos, fast wraps, piled high nachos. Whatever you crave, Mission will help you be race ready with easy-to-make recipes that will take your race day to the finish line. Keep your racing delicious and enjoy all the mouth-watering action. Brought to you by Mission Foods. Too fast, too tasty.
Look out, 'cause here I come.
Have you always had trouble losing weight and keeping it off? Same.
Discover the power of Wegovy.
And I'm marching on to the beat I drum.
With Wegovy, I lost 35 pounds. And some lost over 46 pounds.
Wegovy.
And I'm keeping the weight off.
Wegovy helps you lose weight and keep it off.
I'm reducing my risk.
Wegovy is the only FDA-approved weight management medicine that's proven to reduce risk of major cardiovascular events in adults with known heart disease and with either obesity or overweight.
Wegovy shouldn't be used with semaglutide or GLP-1 medicines. Don't take Wegovy if you or your family had medullary thyroid cancer, multiple endocrine neoplasia syndrome type 2, or if allergic to it. Stop Wegovy and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck, severe stomach pain, or an allergic reaction. Serious side effects may happen, including pancreatitis and gallbladder problems. Wegovy may cause low blood sugar in people with diabetes, especially if you take medicines to treat diabetes. Tell your provider about vision problems or changes, or if you feel your heart racing while at rest. Depression or thoughts of suicide may occur. Call your provider right away if you have any mental changes. Common side effects like nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea may lead to dehydration, which may cause kidney problems.
With Wegovy,
I'm losing weight.
I'm keeping it off.
And I'm lowering my CV risk.
That's the power of winning.
Check your cost and coverage before talking to your healthcare professional about Wegovy.
First, we did the impossible. Then you ate so many of the impossible that we completely ran out. And now, they're back! The footlong cookie is back at Subway.
The cockroach, resilient creatures. Where there is one, others aren't far behind.
Well, that's horrifying.
Ortho Home Defense Max Indoor Insect Barrier. One application kills and prevents bugs for 365 days. Nature's wild. Your home doesn't have to be.
To give your teeth a dentist clean feeling, start with a round brush head, add power, and you've got Oral-B. Round cleans better by surrounding each tooth to remove 100% more plaque for a superior clean. Oral-B. Brush like a pro.
You don't need the same Duracell batteries that help power Williams Racing. Until you do. Duracell is a proud partner of Williams Racing.
The Play NHRA Virginia Nationals is sponsored by Mission Foods. Make today delicious with Mission Foods. Now that's too fast, too tasty. And by Lucas Oil, the world leader in high-performance lubricants and problem-solving additives. We are back here in Virginia, and it's time to talk about the Pro Modified category, the Grudy HR Pro Mod category, presented by Learn EV+. They are the fastest full-body cars in NHRA drag racing. 5 different power outer combos allowed, a 10 national event series in 2024. And for the second year, the road to the championship playoff format, and Tony, we're locking that in this weekend. So these round wins, which are worth 1.5 points over a normal race, will set that 10-car field of our points leaders as we look now. Our second round of eliminations on deck here. Scruggs, Curtuccio, Gray Smith, Lasik, Reibenbach, Thorne, and Bond. We now go into round 2 highlights, kicking things off with Kevin Reibenbach, the
Pro mods are going to benefit just like the Nitro cars and the Pro Stockers, everybody else did, with the decrease in temperature ambiently and on the racetrack.
And they should. You'll see a big performance pickup, a gain, like we did Friday night. That's when they had the best qualifying possessions. They should be able to get close to that kind of performance right now.
Jordan Lasik and the Bahrain 1 team lined up next to that very cool, unique sports roof style Mustang of Kevin Rivenbark of the Culp Lumber Company. Reaction times within 8 thousandths of a second of one another, and it's Rivenbark just powering down the drag strip. 577-1 at 245, a tenth better than Lasik.
You look at the performance, you look at the driver's performance, and they're all racing like it is the final couple of minutes in the fourth quarter of any kind of game.
Here is the Mississippi Missile himself, Jason Scruggs. Father Mitchell is the crew chief. Jerry Bickle constructed Camaro with its plain red wrapper on it. Across the racetrack, Ken Curtuccio, one of the racers trying to make himself a factor in this championship hunt here. Curtuccio employing the centrifugal ProCharger style blower on the E3 spark plug side. And you can see the blower coming up through the hood Toyota side for the Mississippi Missile himself. And Scruggs goes down the racetrack 574.8, 249 miles an hour. Look at the reaction times.
Yeah, these guys are game on. 023 a pair, and you could hear that supercharger just zinging at the end of the track, and one of the quicker runs that we've seen on this day.
It is so far the quickest run in eliminations. Now over the course of qualifying, some guys went quicker, but right now, as far as the Sunday race day goes, that is the quickest run on the property. Ricky Smith, that rumbling 959 cubic inch nitrous swilling engine, and this J.R. Gray. Of course, Gray, the center of great controversy over the course of this week when his final round run at Bristol was negated. He has been a class act about it, taking the high road in so many ways. He has expressed his displeasure, but done so as a professional. And Ricky Smith is going to try to take the fight to Gray. He had to pedal it.
It was Gray that just showed him a fender that had the quicker reaction time. But Ricky Smith came into this round with the performance advantage. And like his other opponents, he's picking the pace up.
By 2000s, that becomes the quickest run in eliminations. By speed, it is the fastest run we have seen in eliminations at 253.71. Chris Thorne still looks out the window to see that frustrating number 3 after his tough end of the year last year in Las Vegas. And Justin Bond suffered the same fate. Bond came into Vegas as a racer that was favored for a championship. It didn't go his way either. But Bahrain 1, this team so strong, knows that one of their 2 cars is advancing on. And another display of starting line prowess as Thorne is 27 to Bond's 41. It is Chris Thorne. Parachutes out 573.9, outrunning at 576. Jamie Miller and the entire crew are just knocking him dead in that thing.
Yeah, and for Chris Thorne, that is exactly the way that you have to approach Justin Bond.
national event level, this Aaron Brooks, who works alongside Todd Ukahara to tune this car. What's he doing?
Well, he's looking more than likely at a timing map that is going to manipulate the power. Likely they're not taking more timing out of it. They're going to ram and jam some timing back into it, and up and down on that control module. That controls the timers, the clutch settings, when the clutch starts to fire off, the sequence. And when we talk about fire off, that bearing moves back. When the bearing moves back, it allows some of those centrifugal levers to start to clamp the clutch. And when that clutch is starting to compress, that power that engine makes is transmitted to those rear tires.
So as Aaron Brooks goes through the very finite data of that entire process, this really is the culmination of the teardown process, the turnaround process, if
initially started on gas, they then switch it over to nitromethane.
See Bob's process of engaging and disengaging the clutch, grabbing the brake handle, seating that clutch into position. You can see the crew now gathered around the engine. When we come back, we will talk to Austin Prock as the Nitro Funny Car, Fuel, Pro Stock, and other finals are on deck. Don't go anywhere.
Tuesday, the Summer of Stars continues with 3 huge matchups on Fox and FS1. First in the Euros, France takes on Poland, and Jude Bellingham leads England against Slovenia. Then in Copa America, Messi leads reigning champion Argentina against Chile. The Summer of Stars continues with 3 massive matchups beginning Tuesday at noon Eastern on Fox and FS1.
Every Saturday, your game is on Fox. I mean, just feast your eyes on this. Because if baseball is as American as apple pie, then Fox Saturday Baseball is one heck of a slice. And with these guys on the menu, all you gotta do is sit back, relax, and make some room for a big old helping. With a cherry on top. Come on, it's Saturday.
There are over 75 million monthly Tubi viewers. That's more people than there are wall-mounted, dual-actuating drinking fountains, which means Tubi is more popular than water that's so cold it hurts your teeth. More popular than unnecessarily high water pressure. More popular than health code violations. Tubi, it's more popular than wall-mounted, dual-actuating.
We are live here at Virginia Motorsports Park. You can see that the pits have thinned out massively, and that is because we have sent all but a handful of cars home packing, as is the nature of the sport of drag racing. You can show up with as many cars as you want, but in the end, only 2 will be left in competition. Austin Prock is one of those 2 cars in the Nitro Funny Car ranks. He has fought his way through a very tough day of racing. In this Ram Trucks Ram Road to the Final, we see how Austin Prock started his day against Cruz Pedregon.
It started on a very hot track. It was 92 degrees at this point, and you can see what a lot of the tuners have been fighting. The misfire in the cylinders, it happened at the end of the track for Austin Prock. It happened earlier in the run for Cruz Pedregon, but this kind of performance was the quickest of the first round.
And then it would be the second round of eliminations when Austin Prock would roll to the starting line next to the All-Star Ron Capps.
A big challenge from that Napa team, and you can see how close the race was up until they got to 700 feet. It was the Napa car. Again, a misfiring cylinder pretty much took them out of the race.
We talked to Thomas Prock, who is Austin's brother and Jimmy's son, talking about what they've worked on for a hot weather tune-up, because what they have seemingly done with this car is tuned it in to the all-weather threat it's always wanted to be, because it cooled off and they threw down against Matt Hagen.
Yeah, they loaded the car up with better performance, and they still misfired a couple of cylinders at the end of the track, only running 316 miles an hour. There is more performance in this car for the final.
Austin Prock is with Amanda in the pits.
And Brian, a little over 7 hours ago, Austin Prock has made his way back to his pit after his round 1 win. When John Force had that crash, he went straight to the top end, has not looked at any replay, and said that you would not look at a replay. Where's your mindset at right now, Austin?
Well, my adrenaline's finally going. This has been a hell of a long day, and a lot of different emotions going on, but got a tough final round matchup against Taska. Always loved racing him and haven't got to do it very often this season, so looking forward to matching up against that Ford, see if we can get the Chevy out in front.
Fans across the country are wanting to hear more about John Force. What can you tell us?
To be honest, I haven't got an update since he left, but the last one I did get, he was in a helicopter heading to the hospital, and Brittany said he was starting to sound like himself again. When I saw him, he wasn't speaking, so that was definitely some good news, and that guy's tougher than nails, so I'm sure he'll be fine, but that was a hard hit. Like I said, I didn't see it, but I saw the data. That was a hell of a lick, and he'll bounce back. He's John Force.
You're headed into yet another final this season. You're looking for your 3rd win on the year. John Force picked you. What would make this win different?
Hey, well, it'd be dedicated to him for sure. You know, that was tough today. Never want to see anyone crash, especially, you know, a friend of mine, mentor, someone I look up to. So, yeah, we'll get it done. Get to flip that switch again, and I drove like shit 2 rounds, to be honest, but we're going to get it together for Taska.
Austin, we have just a little bit before we get to this final. What do you do now?
I need to get back to work, to be honest. I'm going to hit the practice tree. I got to get some fuel in this race car and drag her up there and see if we can go low of the weekend. That thing was marching that last run and actually dropped 2 cylinders down track and still went low of the session. So it's got plenty more in this Prock rocket, but she was a handful down there. I'd just taken my right hand off the steering wheel up on the roof to get the laundry out on time, because you can see how important that is after today. And thing dropped 2 cylinders at the same time, and I was hand over fist, one-handed at 300 mile an hour plus. So definitely had my hands full, but I'm always up for the challenge, and that's what makes funny cars animals, man. They're so much fun to drive.
Thank you, Austin. We'll see you in the final.
Thank you. Peace out.
And then he was gone, going off into the trailer to finish up his work in preparation for this round. We can look again at the start of Austin Prock's funny car career. We see 9 starts and 5 final rounds. He got into a car that was very good, and he has delivered on the need to be very good in that car to make sure it maintained its professional standard that Robert Height had brought it to with crew chief Jimmy Prock. We talk about the top fuel category and Sean Langdon to start with, part of what has become the most potent 1-2 punch in top fuel drag racing.
There's no question about that. It's all about putting the right people in the right places. They've always had talent. They just didn't have the right talent complementing one another. They shuffled some tuners around. They put Brian Hughes in, who was on Kallitta's championship winning car last year, to head up this Sean Langdon. And of course, Doug Kallitta's car hasn't fallen off. They still have plenty of talent, but now they have as good a 1-2 punch in top fuel.
There was a significant amount of frustration, not just for Sean, but for the whole entire Kalitta team for a couple of seasons when it seemed as though this was the most underperforming 11th place car in drag racing, and they worked and they toiled and they have the right people in the right places, and the results have been astonishing. Langdon and Kalitta will meet in the final round. Speaking of Doug Kalitta, Bruno Massel is with him in the pits.
Here with Doug Kalitta, our top fuel points leader. Doug has gone back-to-back finals for him now, trying to get his 3rd Wally on the season. And Doug, a couple of years ago, when you weren't the top fuel world champion, did you think you'd have this kind of a run and be able to defend that #1 so well?
Yeah, no, it's a great opportunity. You know, Alan and all these guys, Max Savage and, you know, everybody on my team. And, you know, I'm running Sean here. You know, I have to admit, the last couple of years, Sean hasn't had the car that we really wanted him to have. And, you know, he's got a good car. Brian's over there tuning at the Kalitta Air car. So, but we're definitely we're looking for bragging rights back at the shop here. We'll have a week, so I gotta hopefully pull it off with this Mac Tools car today.
So you're running Shawn Langdon. He is one of the better drivers, and you're considered in that realm. He's got a few years younger than you. You and I both aren't as young as we used to be. How hard is it for you to go up there and hit the tree and stay with a guy like that?
Yeah, just try to, just do my normal thing. Hopefully it's good enough. And but yeah, it'll be a great race. Shawn's never easy to beat, and it'll be fun.
So you talk about performance. You guys are so evenly, going into this by a couple thousand. So you lose lane choice. Is that an issue for you guys?
I think it's pretty even out there right now. The rain's cooled things off, so. And I got Brian or Alan in my corner here, and yeah, he's the master of tuning these things, as we all know. So I've been macking all my guys, so we'll see what we got.
Going to be a good final, that's for sure.
They will both be bringing all of it against each other. This a look at Shawn Langdon's pit area as the final preparations being made on the valve train there. The blower has been placed atop the intake manifold. It has been secured, and we are just ready for these final rounds in our professional categories. It is going to be great. It is a race that began as a just oppressive, hot slip and slide contest, but when we come back, this will be header flames into the Virginia night as fast as they'll go. To, of course, the NHRA safety safari, but Tyler Crossnow, Tommy Franklin, Judy Franklin, the entire family, they maintain this place at a great standard, and boy, do they take a lot of pride in that racetrack.
Well, to some degree, they experimented with the first two-day event that we've seen in a long, long time. The place was packed with a 95-degree forecast, and, of course, the track, the work that they put into it, the compliments that all the teams have provided, and you know how critical some of these tuners can get.
Yes.
But they've done the right thing, and it was great to see that a lot of people came out, and I don't think the racers have disappointed anyone.
They have absolutely brought the house when it's come to a performance. Gage Herrera is seeking this record-breaking 10th straight victory, but to get to 10, you got to win 9. And this was a week ago when he picked up his 9th career, or I should say 9th straight victory. Gianna Salinas made that final round. Gianna Evaristo now. She did such a great job over the course of her riding day, but it was, of course, Gage Herrera that owned the opportunity.
There's a few things that you have to beat. You have to beat the resources, the talent that this Vance and Hines teams brings to the starting line, but then there's also the rider that has a lot of talent, and it all comes together.
One of the other astonishing things about Gage Herrera, again, we're talking about a guy that's ridden about 1 1/3 full seasons, is that he has 15 wins and 16 career final rounds. And he is surpassing people already in the all-time win list at a very rapid rate. We're talking people who have done this for a very long time. Richard Gadsden has done a spectacular job this season as a rookie and as a humble guy who has put in the work. His uncle Ricky Gadsden actually who spent some time with us today in the TV booth, a great drag racer on motorcycles himself and somebody that's had a huge influence on Richard Gadsden's life and career. As you can see, Gage Herrera placing his leather jacket upon his shoulders. Going to pull that helmet on, as Richard Gadsden will do the same thing momentarily. So the all-time win list in a pro stock motorcycle. He's 1 win away from catching Antron. He's 3 away from catching Hector Rana Jr., Ellie Tong, and Matt Hines. I mean, these are huge names that he is bulldozing his way toward.
And I mean, the part that's staggering is he's been doing this for about 1.5 years, but it's just so impressive that the run that they've had, again, this is a team effort. It's the tuners, it's the personnel, it's the work that they put in at the shop in that small town of Brownsburg, and then you put talent on it, and that's where the magic happens.
So Gage wearing his Revzilla and Motul colors, the Vance & Hines orange and black, the Suzuki Hayabusa. They are both very meticulous in their work, and both of these riders come from similar background. They raced what we call pro street motorcycles, or extended swing arm bikes with street tires on them, no wheelie bar bikes. It requires a different control set, but ultimately it's training, and a lot of that is grudge racing, which is very high pressure, results demanded, and both of these guys have come from that arena.
Well, they've grown up around it. They both come from families that are very family oriented and that have dedicated and made a high level of commitment to the sport. And they don't just fall into these positions. They put the time in, they put the work in, and when opportunity presents itself, these guys, they were ready.
I made this reference earlier in the season, but if Andrew Hines is Dr. Frankenstein, he has his perfect monster, and Bruno's down with Andrew Hines on the starting line.
Down here with Andrew Hines on the starting line as he's talking about Lanny McGlizzy going over the traction numbers. Andrew, what are we seeing right now on the track?
Track's really good. You know, something we haven't had all weekend long. Q1 was a little bit closer, but we had way more temp. But we went 103 in that session off Q1, and we're going to try and go 103 again and give Richard a full run. Gage is a little nervous about his lights versus Richard, so we had a little joshing in the trailer. It was fun, and it's always nice to have both Revzilla motorcycles in the final.
Now, we saw a massive change in terms of atmospheric conditions and track conditions, all that kind of stuff. How does that affect a pro stock motorcycle, especially all this water in the air?
Well, I'm throwing stuff at it I have never done before, so this is unique conditions that we haven't run in, man, I don't know, years. So just a guessing game, and trial and error and a little hypothesis here and there, and the motorcycle's liking it. We're getting some speed out of it. Gage said it's smooth all through each gear, so that makes me happy.
So for Gage Herrera, he went out here and went low to set a track record. No one really saw that coming, especially the condition we saw in Q2. Can we see him beat that here tonight?
No, I don't think we're going to get there. The air is 1.5% worse, so we're missing about 6 or 7 horsepower on this motorcycle, and that's going to equate to quite a bit of ET. So we go 103. I think we can pop into the 673 range, but 670 is probably out of the question.
As always, a detailed breakdown of the available performance out there for Andrew Hines. He is a thorough interview and always an entertaining guy to talk to. And so now the two riders get ready to fire up their bikes for this Pro Stock Motorcycle Final. The starters will be plugged in, and likely the two quickest runs of the weekend, at least maybe one of the quickest runs of the weekend, will be made. We've talked about this Bob Glidden streak. For those of you tuning in, if Gage Herrera lights the top of his scoreboard, has the win light illuminate, it will be his 10th straight victory. Bob Glidden has the longest existing NHRA consecutive race win streak at 9. He won those 9 races starting in 1978, concluding in 1979. He lost his streak in the second round of the Mile High Nationals. Burnouts completing here. The Humphrey and Lambeck Plymouth Volare was the car that was staged next to Bob Glidden when he red lit in the second round of the Mile High Nationals, ending the win streak and the round streak. Gage has claimed the round streak. We'll see if he can claim the win streak here against Richard Gadsden. E3 side for Gadsden. And Herrera ready to go to battle here. See Eddie Krawick, the crew chief for Richard Gadsden, inviting.
I like Gadsden. Gadsden said, yeah, I'm here too.
I like it. Inviting Gage Herrera to stage first. They both lead with exactly the same reaction time, 22 and 22. And for the 10th time straight, Gage Herrera has claimed a Wally. 675.5 beats a 678.6. Tony, this is the most astonishing streak this sport has seen in 4 decades.
Well, it's not just a battle of the drivers. You saw the tuners. It was Eddie Krawick that was setting up. You can see just by that much, they really picked the performance up. They had been quite a bit slower all day, but they took their best shot. And that expression on Eddie Krawick's face really should have explained the story that these guys had made some substantial changes on that machine. They came up about 0.03 of a second short.
And so for Richard Gadsden, he actually had the better 60-foot time. Gadsden was 104.0 to the 104.9 of Gage Herrera.
Identical off the starting line, even at the first 330 feet, Richard Gadsden was well in this race, and we haven't seen quite the challenge, with the exception of Matt Smith losing on a hole shot a couple of weeks ago in Bristol. But this was one heck of a race, and you can see the drift towards the inside for Gage Herrera, and it might have been a little bit of a deer in headlights. You can see him actually look over, maybe seeing his opponent and teammate a little bit closer than he expected.
And so there is the Wally for Gage Herrera, now the 16th of his career, the 10th in a row, and it is a streak that certainly has been placed into jeopardy, but it is a streak that will continue unabated. The Pro Stock automobiles now are getting ready to fire up as Gage Herrera does what has become almost a reflexive muscle action at the top end. Raise your hand with a Wally on a Sunday afternoon or evening. It is just something that is a little something you've never seen or I've never seen in the sport of drag racing. And now it is Pro Stock in the final round. Aaron Stanfield, left side of your screen. Dallas Glenn on the right. The Pep Boys drone shoots this one. It was Dallas Glenn in Chicago beating Stanfield. Who's going to be here?
Well, Aaron Stanfield has been able to get himself to the final by doing something very special, by getting here on hole shots. And Dallas Glenn recognizes that while he is very good off the starting line, not quite as good as Aaron. So I think the key to success, while Dallas Glenn has the slightly better car, Stanfield comes into this round 100th of a second quicker with the momentum, with a better reaction time. So it almost seems like Dallas Glenn is going to have to take the fight to Aaron Stanfield.
So both cars now inching their way ahead. And we've said this so many times, when these two racers meet, they are not verbose individuals. They are simply two of the most motivated young talents in this category as the wheelie bar adjustment gets made here for Aaron Stanfield. Johnson's Horsepower Garage and Melling, the major backers for Stanfield. Rad Torque Systems for Dallas Glenn. A great look here. It is what has turned into a beautiful evening in Dinwiddie, Virginia. The Pep Boys drone shows us the starting line. Glenn appears to have a much better move early. You watched him begin to drive away. The 007 reaction time isn't going to hurt things. And at the finish line, it is Aaron Stanfield. 661.4 beats a 661.7. Stanfield wins the drag race by a very slim margin. And that one goes to Elite Motorsports.
It's going to be real hard to pick up on this, but there was a couple of different lead changes in this race. And it started with Aaron Stanfield, another surgeon-like 007 on the reaction time, and that is very hard to do. That is his encore to back up the 003, but Dallas Glenn seemed like he was making up some of the ground by 330 feet, and it was Aaron Stanfield that just surged ahead at the 8th mile.
We watched from the long end of the racetrack. Stanfield had a 9,000ths advantage at the starting line and was able to stretch it by the slimmest at the finish line. Now let's go to the top end of the racetrack. Amanda Busick is there.
And Brian, his team has made it up here to celebrate this streak as well. Brian Loans called this an astonishing streak that we haven't seen in drag racing in over 4 decades. How do you describe the ride that you're on, Gage?
It's hard to describe it. I mean, it doesn't seem real to me. I mean, that was an awesome final, you know, for whole Vance Hines, Motul, Revzel, Suzuki. You know, that's all of Vance Hines. I mean, me and Richard had the same light off the line, and can't ask for a better race like that, but all Vance Hines final. But to get 10 straight wins and now, you know, hold that record, that national record and all that, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't want to cry on camera, but it's just crazy. I never would have thought, you know, my name would have been in any type of history book, and it's just amazing. So it's time to celebrate tonight. It's gonna be good for whole Vance Hines, and not only that, but me. So this was probably the biggest monkey of all, and I'm glad it's off my back. Thank you.
And it is effectively from this point forward, it's all gravy, as Krawick says, come on, man, he almost got there. But the 104.0 to 104.9 60-foot times, those bikes left, as we've often talked about, identically to each other. We get one more look at Pro Stock car.
Yeah, Pro Stock was just dominated by Aaron Stanfield, and I look back at the numbers, and Aaron Stanfield is just so mild-mannered. He's flown under the radar. He had a better car by 100th of a second in every round, so coming into this matchup, he was match set.
And again, we talk about how good the racetrack is, but really how good the preparation is. Both cars just never varied more than a few inches, it seemed like, from the center of their respective grooves. For Stanfield, it has to feel good to get one back, of course, on Dallas Glenn, who they fought like this tooth and nail in the final round in Chicago. And for Stanfield, career final 18, career win number 9, season final number 3. This guy's in championship form, and he is with Amanda Busick.
Brian, just prior to this interview, we pulled Aaron Stanfield aside. His baby girl was holding the Wally that is in his hand. I can't imagine there is a better feeling than seeing that. After 2 runner-up finishes, you're now holding the Wally. How will this further kickstart your season?
These things are hard to win right here, but I got my wife and my baby girl here with me this weekend, and it's pretty special to see. She can see why Daddy's gone all the time, so it's very special. But I was blessed with a wonderful opportunity to represent JHG this year, and thank you to Jason and Nikki Johnson. We're going to have another Wally coming back to Nashville, and thank you to Melling, thank you to Joe Janik, all the guys at Elite Motorsports. These guys worked their tail off on this hot rod today. It was hot, it was wet, and man, it's special. It's hard to put into words, and all I can say is these things are hard to win, so enjoy them while they're here. And Travis, we finally got that first win.
The Wally in one hand, but the true prize in the other for Aaron Stanfield. That is absolutely spectacular. We now look at our Pro Stock points coming out of this race. After 9 events, Dallas Glenn is the points leader. Greg Anderson's chasing him, 41 back. Eric is in third, 65 back. And then look at the spread. We go way down the hill, 192 back for Jake Coughlin. Stanfield, despite the success he's had this weekend, still 193 back. And David Quadra in 10th, 484 back. There has been some performance hoarding, as you can tell, by the top 3 points earners in 2024. Of course, the reactions on the starting line, everybody was fired up. Anytime we see an elite car and a KB car lined up side by side in a final, it is not simply a matter of a golf clap when you win one of these things.
No, it's always a battle royale, and it was hard-earned. It was a good, close race, and the driver did his job. The team was very efficient, and, well, the tune-up on that car was spot on.
And the battle will continue next week in Norwalk, Ohio, as we have a back-to-back part of our schedule here in the NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series. When we continue on, the Nitro Finals will be coming as our Fendt tractors rotating the drag strip. Safety Safari making sure that the top end is clear of any debris. Of course, the biggest story to come out of this race, and thankfully it is a story that appears as though it's moving in a positive direction, was that just massive crash that John Force had during early eliminations against Terry Haddock. It was during the first round, and you've undoubtedly seen it. We will show you again here just the huge explosion. John initially began, it seemed, driving the car, and then it just careened across the racetrack and hit with a force that is almost incalculable.
Well, the cylinders start to misfire. Likely the tires were spinning. It overfuels the engine. It creates an imbalance with the engine that boost is still going in the motor. And no parachute. There was no parachute deployed by the driver. John had his hands full. He had the car in control even while it was doing all of this. But the parachutes really would have changed the outcome of this incident. And there you see John being extracted out of the car under his own power, fortunately.
It was definitely among the most breathless of moments I have ever spent in the sport of drag racing as we awaited to see this particular scene happening. When the Safety Safari helped John out of his race car, he, of course, was taken to a local hospital for observation where he remains up to this minute. But again, you heard Austin Prock's interview. You heard some words that Bob Taska passed along earlier that were positive on that front. As we look at the rotator tractors prepping the racetrack, which always happens at a national event between the Pro Stock cars and the Nitro cars. Whether the Nitro cars run first or the Pro Stock cars do, we change the preparation of the racetrack. As the NHRA Summit Racing Equipment Nationals come up next weekend in Norwalk, Ohio. It is going to be a big old banger of a race out there. Sunday, June 30th, 2 p.m. Eastern on FS1. You'll catch our first qualifying coverage. And then our final round eliminations coverage will kick off on FS1 at 4 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. At 5 p.m. Eastern, we make the switch to your local Fox affiliate, and you'll watch the remaining rounds of eliminations from the Summit Racing Equipment Nationals in Norwalk, Ohio. At 5 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, June 30th, on your local Fox affiliate. It will be a great weekend. It always is. The car counts, Tony, are massive. We're up over 20 top fuel dragsters, a bunch of funny cars over a bump spot. It's going to be fantastic.
We've been very fortunate. A lot of teams have been coming out of the woodworks, and they are competitive cars. These independents that we call them, they're single car teams. They don't compete at all the events. However, with some help from some of the bigger teams, they have become more and more competitive. And Brian, I can't tell you, I've spent a day at the races where I've seen the temperature at 144 degrees and decline to 107 degrees all in one day.
It is a spread that is just unbelievable, and thankfully for us, it's a spread that went in that direction. If it started at 107 and at 140, it wouldn't be as entertaining as we go back just one race ago, the final round of Austin Prock and J.R. Todd. It was Austin Prock winning this final round, hoisting another Wally on his season, and he has certainly made a habit. Now he has made his 5th final round in 9 races on this NHRA Mission Foods Drag Racing Series Tour. We have discussed it earlier. We should discuss it again. The Ford Performance Mustang of Bob Taska has been living by the joking analogy that we pulled parts out of the junk pile to take power away from this car and to slow it down and to calm it down and to make it behave and do what we want it to do. They need a personality change quick if that's the approach against Austin Prock.
Well, here's the reason that this is going to be such an exciting final. If you follow the NFL, if you follow boxing, there's nothing like an offensive team. You want to watch a team that throws touchdowns, that racks the score up. Same with boxing. You don't want to. It's boring to watch a defensive fighter that's very tactical. You watch Ryan Garcia, you want to watch Tyson, you want to see the knockout. Both of these teams have knockout power, and I can guarantee you, in between rounds, especially for Taska, they know they have some ground to make up, and they are not going to be shy.
Body comes down for Austin Prock and the Cornwell Quality Tools Camaro. I would argue that this sport, especially at this level of nitro drag racing, is at its best when everybody's cards are laying face down, or I should say face up on the table. There is no surprise hidden in Jimmy Prock's back pocket. He shows up every run to take his competition and twist them into a pretzel and just wear them out. For Tadeu Nhra and for Aaron Brooks, these are the two guys we've often talked about as being a great offsetting team, where one guy can tend to be very aggressive, but the other guy can pull him back in. Now we get to see how that partnership truly works, because you know, and I think I know, that Aaron Brooks was salivating almost as hard as Jimmy Prock would have been to get this car on this racetrack with these conditions.
We saw this battle between these two really start to take shape early in the year. Then Taska won the 4-wide in Vegas. Then they changed their combination. They saw a lot of potential in it, but they just felt that the clock was ticking. They're going to compete in hot summer months, and they've gone back to this go-to combination. But this setup right here will run aggressively in these conditions.
This is the Nitro Funny Car Final, a moment that we held our breath to even get past the first round here. Who knew we would see this magic happen in front of us? And Taska blazes the tires, and Austin Prock, low AT in the meet, 392.1, 327 miles an hour, a 49 reaction time. That is all of it. A slam dunk from the three-point line for Austin Prock.
Well, both of the drivers were armed up. They could see better because it's starting to get dusk. You can see the LED lights much better, so the reaction times should improve, but for both drivers, didn't disappoint on the starting line, just tire smoke for the Taska machine.
Bruno is with the Swami himself, Jimmy Prock.
Well, Jimmy, it's been a long day and a tough day for your entire team. Emotionalized, going through what you just went through, what does it feel like right now?
Well, I'm just relieved. I really wanted to win this race for John. You know, I really hate to see what happened to him, but I think he's going to be all right. I don't know a whole lot right now, but we just tried to keep our focus and do the job, you know, and I wanted to get this win for him, and we did. Thank you.
We can say, have said, and will say many things about John Force, but his value to these people that have cried over his wellness today says many things, Tony.
Well, for the Ford Performance Machine, they sat on this tune-up for too long. You know, they came out here, they showed a lot of potential, they made some of the quicker runs in the sessions, but they knew, based on the incremental numbers from the Prock machine, that they had to get more aggressive with the car, and you can see where they sped it up. I'm sure that they fed it a little more power. They try to apply the clutch sooner and earlier, just too aggressive. While the track has improved, there is a point of no return.
And so Austin Prock, we watch again, just a thing of beauty out here. The header flames reaching up over the roof of that Chevrolet Camaro. A little wiggle at the big end, and that is the only imperfection, if you can even call it that.
Yeah, and take a look at the throttle blades for Taska. He was trying, he was feeling the car, he felt it start to vibrate. That's an indication of a good driver that has a good feel for the car. However, in the other lane, it was Prock not making any mistakes and off to the races.
If anybody ever decides to question if Austin Prock can mentally lock himself into a race day in spite of pressures and in spite of outside forces, allow this one to answer all of them. You come up here and you deliver in a way in the final round that only he seemingly can in this category now. He is shaping himself up to be almost the Justin Ashley of Nitro Funny Car racing in so many ways. But this is an important race, not just for the emotional level, but it showed me anyway that there is a very mature young man in that race car, far more so than he has been in years past.
Well, there's another case of a driver that is second, third generation that has been around the sport, and when the door swung open, this guy was better than ready.
Amanda and Austin Prock are at the top end.
Austin, your third Wally in Funny Car is one I'm sure you won't forget in your entire lifetime. At the top end in Bristol, you said you were living your dream. John Force was a believer in that dream. Where will that Wally go?
It's going straight to the hospital to John Force. Well, shit, I hope he's out, actually, but well, I'll find out. But this is definitely dedicated to John Force. My grandpa told me before I left, he said, go get a Wally, and we definitely did that. 374s back in the winner's circle, and that's really special. So I finally got my stuff together on the starting line there, chopped the tree down, and they gave me a fast Prock rocket there. So God bless, and thank the Lord for keeping John Force safe today.
A winner's celebration that used to be had on the top of a Top Fuel wing seems a little bit more well-advised at a lower altitude of a funny car.
A little more unstable. The Top Fuel car doesn't seem to rock like a Nitro Funny Car. But for Austin Prock, he does such a good job in the car. He has a good feel for the car. He seems to be able to get up for the bigger races. He's got youth on his side, and I think he was very inspired today.
He certainly was, and he drove it. And Austin Prock is not only the points leader, but it is a points lead that is growing by the week. 131, the margin ahead of John Force. Matt Hagen, 166 back. J.R. Todd, 197 back. Bob Taska, the third, with his final round appearance, is within 210. But, boy, it gets deep after that. Dan Wilkerson, Ron Capps, Alexis Pedroia, Chad Green, and Blake Alexander round out the top 10. Bob Taska, ever the sportsman, shook his hands, and a bittersweet defeat for Taska, but he leaves here knowing that he has a very functional hot weather race car. And certainly, Bob Taska's life in drag racing, John Force has played a large role in that, and it's an all Kallita Top Fuel final round here in Virginia. Sean Langdon, 19 career wins overall, 17 of them in Top Fuel. For Doug Kallita, over 50 wins in the Top Fuel category. The Mac Tools Top Fueler, top of your screen here at the Pep Boys drone showed us, and the Kallita Air Top Fueler of Sean Langdon on the right-hand side of the reg strip.
A lot has changed in the last year and a half. You have the number 1 and 2 qualifier. You have 1 and 2 in the points. Sean Langdon actually has a better car on this day. So what that means is there's the student and there's the teacher in terms of the tuners. Alan Johnson does not want to get outrun. I'm sure he is going to get much more aggressive with this car. I don't think lane choice is an issue. I think Doug Kallita would find himself in a very good position if he could sharpen up on the starting line, which he has been able to do so many times.
And Doug Kallita is going to roar down the left side of the racetrack. 375.9, a beautiful run for Doug Kallita, the quickest run of eliminations at 333 miles an hour. Langdon was out on him by 5 thousandths and then up in smoke.
Well, again, a chess match on the starting line. Why would Sean Langdon smoke the tires? He hasn't done it all day because you know what you're up against in going up against Alan Johnson.
Now we go to Bruno with Alan Johnson.
Well, Alan and I navigated that mosh pit very well, I'd have to say, Alan, for two a little bit older guys. Hey, you know, you had a lot of challenges thrown at you today. You had completely two different sets of conditions, two different racetracks. How did you go out there and run 375?
Well, you know, the track got good, and we got enough shots at, you know, we were dropping cylinders, just afraid of the racetrack, wouldn't load it enough, and sometimes you just can't take enough fuel out of it to keep the cylinders lit when there's no load. So when the track got better, we just figured, let's just go ahead and load the thing out there, not worry about that cylinder, and it ran to the finish line, ran great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So Alan Johnson puts another feather in a cap that is full of them.
Well, this is what happens when the car does what you expect for it to do. He loaded it up. He knew they had really more to gain than they had to lose. Sean Langdon, he's the #1 qualifier. He was really performing better in every round, and the conditions came and played right into the hands of Alan Johnson, and they were aggressive. Equally like Sean Langdon, but you can see where the car loses traction. That's at about 150 feet off of the starting line. And again, good instincts from a driver. You can see him get off the throttle, back in it, in the event that he can slow that rear wheel down enough to regain traction. But at some point early in the run, he realizes there is no catching Doug Kallita.
No, that was a train on a very good set of tracks out there. We watch again from down course. Can see Langdon make that one feathering move of the throttle, but Doug Kallita didn't have to breathe a millimeter off of his. A 375.2 at 333. Doug Kallita continues to look again like a repeat level champion in Top Fuel. Our Goodyear Super Slow-Mo here shows that tire smoke and shows the unabated header flames of Doug Kallita.
This is what you call real nitro. It's not just a name. They burn nitromethane for fuel, and the unburned fuel, when it hits that atmosphere, it lights up.
Doug Kallita is with Amanda Busick.
And his third Wally of the season is going in the hands of our reigning champ, Doug Kallita. And Doug, in 9 races, Kallita Motorsports now owns 5 Wallies, you with 3 of them. How unstoppable is this operation right now?
Yeah, we've definitely all worked very hard at Chad Head and Connie, and yeah, we're just real proud of what Connie's put together for us here. And yeah, it's bragging rights, I guess, at the shop. You know, my Mac Tools Toyota RevCam guys. You know, Alan Johnson, everybody, really hell of a job today. Just going rounds, you know, it was so hot, obviously, and you know, we had this rain delay and all, but yeah, it was just a great weekend for all of us.
Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show is presented by Purina Pro Plan. Once again, our judge for